Hello,
Welcome
ladies
to
and gentlemen, and welcome
the
to
show.
Pubcast. What an amazing start. It gets better every time. So, this is going to be an interesting pubcast. This is a technical experiment pubcast.
Is it a technical extract? Which number is this? 16?
This
Because I
is
don't think
16.
we haven't come up with names, have
We
we, for
didn't
the
come up
last
with
two
names
live
for
on
the
the
last
show.
two, so I just made stuff up after the fact.
Yeah,
Which
it doesn't have the same. It's not worth the same vote.
I mean,
So
it
16th.
kind
Okay,
of
let's
works,
think about this.
but we can't have sexual. We've already had sexual.
What about the?
Hang on, I'm just checking.
No. We've had sensual before. What about
Oh, hang on, wait.
spectacularly
Wait.
spiced?
We've had the sexual sixth.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have had sexual. We had the slightly underdescribed seventh, but we haven't had any other S's, have we? No, we haven't. No, so
The splendiferous. That's a word now. The splendiferous.
unless we used it at the start when we weren't actually
Splendiferously
doing
spiced.
it properly. No, we did have. We had sexual sixth. We had slightly. We haven't had sensual. Then we've not had sensual yet. We could have the
I
sensual.
thought we would have sensual. Ooh.
No, we've had. We had the immense first, the glorious second, the magnificent third, because we hadn't settled on a naming routine there. The fantastical fourth, the munificent fifth. I can't remember how we came up with that.
That's an in joke for the episode.
The sexual sixth,
We're good at those.
the slightly underdescribed seventh, the highly erotic eighth, highly spent, the narky ninth, Christ, the tantalising 10th, the exquisite 11th, terrific 12th, spelt with, actual T, fabulous
wow.
14th, and fashionable 15th. I can't remember exactly what we were wearing, but it probably wasn't that fashionable. It was.
I think I always have this shirt on for Hotfix, so yeah.
You might have had your brown, beigey thing on for the last weeks, which would be the opposite of. I'm just gonna.
Well, okay, so
we had to interrupt Hotfix so I could get this.
no, we're not allowed to talk about that until halfway or into this. We can't go straight into Warhammer because it puts people off apparently.
Oh, I see. So
also, hang on, it's about games. Were you just talking about Warhammer for the first hour? I'm leaving.
Warhammer is a
game. What
game.
we got to do is strategically ambush them with it.
Oh yeah. So, firstly, as I said just a second ago,
sensual.
Oh,
so we can have
yeah,
sensual.
Let's do sensual.
Sensually spiced. I want another word. Sensual.
No, I don't. It's already long enough. YouTube already tells me off every time I upload it.
Sensually significant.
Okay, we'll do that. Essentially significant 16th. Right.
Christ.
So this is a technical experiment because right now, I am encoding hotfix. Except
yes,
obviously,
it was a disaster.
Obviously, won't be when you're watching this, but at the time of recording, I'm encoding hotfix. Now, normally, what we do is we take the video and we just stick it straight on YouTube. It's done on the fly, and that makes it so that we can actually get hotfix out on the same day it's recorded. Otherwise, it would be out at some ungodly hour, which it probably will be on Thursday. So, if you're wondering why the hell it was out 5 hours late, then there's your answer. Towards the end, it was towards the end though, which wasn't too bad. My internet connection dropped. It just shit itself and died. So the end of hotfix was basically all of Sty's Skype details just all over the screen. Because when it dies, it takes his face away because we're connected through Skype and I'm recording his face through Skype. So when he goes offline, when his video connection goes, it puts all his details on the screen in the little box where his face used to be, and that's obviously bad. So I've had to go and
it's not
sort
really
it
that
out
bad, but yeah, whatever. It's more professional to get rid of it. Let's say.
Yeah. So it means I'm now encoding hotfix, which I usually don't do, whilst recording this at the same time, which is I don't think I've done that before, but it should be fine. If this dies, then you will never know because I'll edit it out. So,
well, I mean, look at OBS now. Does it say 30 FPS down the bottom corner?
Yep, 30 FPS.
Fine then.
And that's it. No drop frames. So yeah, I'm afraid this week's pubcast is not in glorious 60 FPS, even though both of our cameras only work in 30 FPS anyway. So I don't know why I keep doing it, because I'm sure that just makes it bigger, the file size, doesn't it?
Yes, but it makes the desktop look smoother though when you swap to that.
But how much scrolling do I do on the desktop, really?
I don't know, but each bit of scrolling you do is sensually significant, you could say.
This is true.
So we're going to go into it, right? And right, Metal Gear Solid. Fuck it. I played Metal Gear Solid. Now, I call it the original, the first Metal Gear Solid, but I don't think it is because I think there was a Metal Gear Solid before the one on the PS1, which was some sort of 2D style thing. But the one on the PS1,
I
played
vaguely
that.
think there was as well.
Yeah, I know there was. I played that one anyway, right? Where it's like Snake, you have to Metal Gear, and there's some other shit going on. But it's all about chaff grenades, I remember, avoiding security and stuff like that. It wasn't about running in and just murdering everyone. And there was a lot of crawling through vents as well, I think, in it. And a lot of phone calls and stuff like that going on.
I played it as well a long time ago, and I also played was it not Sons of Liberty, Guns, was it? No, I think it was Sons of Liberty, and then it was Guns of the Patriot or something. I played the one that you were playing Raiden, and Snake was pretending to be someone else, and he called himself Pliskin, which was funny because it was a reference to Escape from LA and Escape from New York, because the main character in that is called Snake Plissken. So when Solid Snake was pretending to be a normal soldier, he called himself Pliskin.
Because, I mean, he'd know that. Hey, you want to hear stupid references? In Metal Gear Solid 5, he's got 111 fragments or 108 fragments of shrapnel in his body. And that is a reference to some sort of Buddhist thing. It's like, what? Oh, yeah, no, I get that. See, totally.
I mean, that to me is like a Hideo Kojima reference. Calling yourself Pliskin when your name is Solid Snake, that's like a stupid pop culture reference I would make. That's not an intelligent reference. That's just like an idiot reference.
I don't think he's intelligent. Right, I'm going to come out. I don't think Hideo Kojima is some sort of God's gift to game design. All he's doing...
Get the pitchforks, boys!
He's like... It's just like totally off the wall stupidness, and I think if anyone thinks about it enough, I mean, I know I could come up with random shit. I mean, the prologue to this game, you're in a hospital. I've not played the previous game, so I don't know what the hell is going on anyway. But I've apparently been wasted, so I'm lying in a hospital bed. I mean, this might even be in the future or in the past in relation to the games. I don't even know because I only played Revengeance, which isn't anything to do with it. Really?
Right, you say that. It's increasingly obvious that it was all the. Because here's the thing as well. Like, I watched part of the stream, and I was like, well, I played the first one. I played the other one with Raiden in it, and I think I know what I'm expecting here. There's always a bit of mental stuff. You know, you had like, what is it, Psycho Mantis in the first one.
Yeah, that's like
the psychic guy.
That's what I was trying to say at the start. Yeah,
yeah,
and it was like a magical man or something. Whatever I said, I don't know.
That was a bit crazy. And then you had Vlad in I'm sure it's Sons of Liberty. People are going to be angry when I'm wrong, but I think it was Sons of Liberty. And he was like a vampire. He could run up walls and across water, and he like butchered people and drank their blood. That's obviously mental. Metal Gear Rising Revengeance was even more mental than that, which is impressive.
Nano
it was already
machine, son.
No, it was already mad. The fact that you've got giant walking robots
of nature.
that's already crazy.
Yeah.
I was like, going into watching Metal Gear Solid 5, I was like, so it's like stealth. It should be stealth. You know, I know there's stealth. It's like stealth and sneaking about cardboard boxes. You know, the guards, the little noise when they see you. But then you were like, there were people garrotting nurses. The camera was zooming in on some guy's naked ass. And there was like that big fiery dude that was just on fire permanently in the hospital and then chasing you. And
yes, it bloke.
What?
So there I am, right? I'm at the start. I'm in the hospital bed for an hour or something while I'm recovering. Who knows what's going on? Anyway, the hospital gets attacked by Cypher, who I guess are the bad dudes, and they want Metal Gear Solid. No, they want Solid. He's not Solid Snake. They want Big Boss, although they still call him Snake, don't they? But he's not Solid Snake because that was a clone of Big Boss. They want because Big Boss is the greatest soldier who ever lived or something stupid. It gets attacked and they want to kill him because he had a private army. And Big Mother Base got destroyed. And the whole point of this game is you're building back your private army, the Diamond Dogs. It's so stupid. Anyway, a floating Russian girl with a gas mask appears. Like, all of this, like, up until that point in the hospital, it's kind of like believable. Like, somebody's trying to assassinate you, military personnel are running through the hospital. You're completely injured. You've been in bed for 9 years, but it's okay because one of your mates has also been feigning illness for 9 years in the bed next door to you to protect you. Right? Because, you know, that's what he does. It's so stupid. And he's like, Snake, we've got to go. And it's like, okay. But you can't walk because obviously your muscles have wasted away because you've been in bed for 9 years. So you're just like crawling on the floor, and this guy is walking in front of you, and he doesn't at any point offer you assistance. He's just like, Snake, come on, Snake. And you're like, you've got You got a prosthetic arm. Your body's wasted away. You're just like, what is this? And it was making me laugh. It's so stupid. And then he gets in front of you. He kneels down, and his like hospital gown opens, and you see the crack of his arse, and the camera like zooms in onto his arse. It's like, why? It's like, why? Why is so stupid? And then like, anyway, you're running through the hospital. You knock a bin over because you try to lean on it, and you fall over, and like bin juice comes out of the bin, like on the floor. It looks a bit horrible. And then a massive explosion happens down the corridor. A floating Russian girl, I think she's Russian, with fire coming out of her hands or something, and a gas mask on, floating around like this, disappears, and a massive molten guy. I don't know. Is this that Vlad guy? I don't know.
I don't think no. Vlad was a vampire. Who just ran on water and stuff.
Anyway, this flame guy appears, who is indestructible. You shoot him, and he reflects bullets back to you. He launches Snake and his mate like across the room. Like in the force of explosion would have killed Snake instantly, but no. This actually helps him because for some reason he can then walk a bit. It's like it's popped his back in place or something. And he's okay. It's just so surreal. Anyway, you get out of this hospital section after loads of messing around. You're escaping in an ambulance. The guy who's helped you escape for 9 years gets killed. Gets shot by an Apache gunship, flies in front of you and just like rails the ambulance. Doesn't hit Snake obviously because he just ducks, as you do. There's a crash or something. You get out of the ambulance. Yeah, the ambulance gets tipped upside down. I think it's Ocelot turns up on the horse. I'm not sure on the name. So a guy turns up on the horse.
The guy with the revolver is Ocelot, isn't it?
I don't think it's Ocelot on the horse. A guy turns up anyway, and he's like, "Come on, Snake, we're going to get you out of here." Gets you on the back of his horse, starts running off. As this happens, a giant sperm whale on fire flies through the air. It's like, yeah. And then the molten fireman is on a flaming unicorn, even with a flaming spike on its head, like Pegasus unicorn with wings, and he's chasing you down, and you have to keep shotgunning him to knock him back. And you dive into the sea because he can't. Well, you're running towards the sea because he can't get there. But I think it starts to rain and then he just disappears. Then you get on a boat, and then you go to. This is, I guess these are kind of spoilers, but I've played under 1% of the game, so not really spoilers.
I really wouldn't worry about it.
Then you get on a boat, a cargo container ship. You go over the Suez Canal, through the Suez Canal to Afghanistan to rescue. This might be Ocelot, actually. Go and rescue somebody anyway who's been in. The Russians have got them. You've got to get them from the Russians because they're in Afghanistan because it's like 1984. And then like random weird things happen. Like I started one mission and there was just a little puppy running around on the floor. Going, so I Fultoned it, which you attach the balloon to it and it just goes. It's like hovering.
It made a fucking horrid noise as well. I was there for that bit. I really didn't like that. When the dog gets like sent up into the air, it makes a horrendous sound. I was like, fuck.
Yes, but you look at the dog, it's exactly like Big Boss. It's got one eye.
It's got the scar of the one eye.
And they put a fucking
eye patch on it.
Because every time they call it DD because it's the diamond dog.
Every time I saw promotional material for that, there was always a wolf with an eye patch, and I was just like, it's a fucking wolf. It doesn't need an eye patch. Why has it got an eye patch on? It doesn't even look cool. It just looks fucking stupid. It's an eye patch on a wolf.
It's so stupid. But, like, yeah, I'd done a couple of the missions, and they all started off like, yeah, I'm going all stealthy. I mean, the game runs flawlessly. I'm playing the PS4 version, and it runs at 60 FPS pretty much flawlessly. It is a good game. It's enjoyable to play. But I'm going in stealthy, and then something like stupid will happen, which results in the base instantly knowing where I am. And like the alarms are going off, and then I just have to kill people, and I end up killing about 80 people, and I'm like, and the mission's done, great. I just sort of move away. Although there was one mission I did for an engineer, because you basically rebuilding Mother Base because it's been blown away. You need to find like members of staff, and then you have to set them up like in the research department, in the production department, and all of this, and have them build weapons for you. And it's just crazy. But I get this one guy, he's in the bowels of this building, he's in like a jail cell. I get him out, and because I was streaming it at the time, somebody in the stream said, "Oh, why don't you Fulton him through the crack in the roof?" And I was looking, thinking, "Yeah, but I could." So I just chucked him on the floor, attached the balloon to him, and he just shot him off through the roof. And it's like, Snake, we've got the VIP mission accomplished. It's like, all right then. So I like the way there's all these crazy like methods. It seems to be of completing all the missions. It isn't just like go in, and it's the only way to do it. But it is so surreal. But you really do have to suspend your disbelief, like we were saying in Hotfix. You've just got to be like,
you've just got to take it as it comes, hasn't it? It's just like, you just be like,
these other guys who turned up, Silver Skulls, I think they were called, and they're like zombies. They're like this, but they've got like super high tech gear on, and they've got like barcodes on their head here. And I'm like, with these guys, and they're like, Snake, don't let them detect you, Snake. And I'm like, right. So I'm trying to hide from them, but you can't because they're coming at you, right? And there's no way you can hide. I tried to hide under a bridge and all this. They were just going to get me. Anyway, I thought I'd just make a run for it with my horse. So I started going for it. And as soon as I aggroed them, I suppose, it shows the lead one. He goes like this. Looks at you like that. And he goes all crazy. I'm like, what's happening? And then he goes with his hands and just like summons a submachine gun into existence and grabs it. And it's like, what? And then I'm running past them and my horse. They're all firing at me, but they can just like go into like a phase mode and rapidly go in front of you, then just materialize and start firing at you. And I'm just like, and then Snake's got a thing called the iDroid, which is his like command thing, right? And it's in the 80s, yeah, 84. Well, Apple, I suppose, and Google. Yeah, it's the iDroid. Yeah. And he's like, it tells him all his misinformation and all this shit, and it's got like some sort of hologram projector built into it. Yeah, so when he looks at it, it like projects it. It's like some. You can't even get this technology now, right? It's like 10 years off at least or something. Like, ridiculous.
You also can't get phasing zombies with
magical... Oh, yeah. Yeah. But hang on, I've got a point. I'm going to get to it. He can also light his cigars with this thing because it like fires a beam of light out. It's just totally stupid. But if he's got all this technology, why does he still use cassette tapes and a Sony Walkman? It's like...
It's just like it's kind of a weird mix of like sci-fi and deliberately retro cultural stuff, ain't it? It's like, well, he's got this, but he does like a good Walkman. It's just why? Why does he like a good Walkman? I made the mistake, by the way. I had a quick look because I was sure that the name was Vlad with a vampire guy. I was wrong because Vlad is too subtle. His name was actually Vamp from Metal Gear Solid 2 and 4, and. So this is because I distinctly remember coming across this guy when I played the game, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Vamp was an ex-member of Dead Cell with vampire-like attributes, including a taste for blood, the ability to run across or stand on the surface of water or vertical walls. But that's not anything to do with vampires. That's not a trait.
No, that's Jesus material.
Superhuman speed and agility, and the ability to shrug off and rapidly heal from the most extreme and fatal wounds, which is entirely true because in Metal Gear Solid 2, you shoot him in the head and he doesn't die. Like, in the forehead, straight through into the brain, and he's just like, no.
Oh, it's funny you should talk about that because Snake's got a 7-inch piece of shrapnel in his brain, and it's sticking out of his head. Yeah, it is like sticking. And they're like, we can't remove it because you'll die. But it's destroyed the language center of your brain. So if it's done that, then surely you don't understand language. So no, you still understand English, but you can't speak Russian or anything. So you have to find interpreters to do this for you.
It's just mental. I've got to read this. I just caught a little glimpse of it, and I think this will sum up, I think, the Metal Gear Solid series that I didn't really realize was all of it. Now, born in Romania, Vamp lost his family in a church bombing in which he was pierced by a crucifix and buried underneath the rubble for 2 days. In order to survive, Vamp fed on the blood of his family until his imminent rescue. This is how he acquired a taste for blood. It doesn't say how he managed to. Hang on, let me do. According to Solid Snake, his name is not a reference to his vampire-like behavior, but to the fact that he was bisexual.
It can't be real. It's just so stupid. None of it makes any sense.
So Vamp was subjected to experimental nanomachines, son, which would allow him to heal from wounds and sickness at an unusually accelerated rate. The nanomachines had previously been developed by Dr. Naomi Hunter, and I don't know who that is, and her design was later perfected by other interested parties. Presumably that guy in Revengeance dealt with her.
Yeah,
the experiment proved to be a success, resulting in Vamp gaining his apparent immortality. That sums it up. Honestly, that little bit sums up just Metal Gear, I think, because it was in the first one. It was like, yeah, Psycho Mantis was a bit crazy, and it was like, what
But it
the
was
hell?
still
This is
kind of
really
real.
bizarre. But it was kind of presented as though he's like a bit of a freak. I know the whole thing is, oh yeah, you were cloned and all that kind of thing, but cloning is, whilst it's still sci-fi, it's not that far away in terms of, you know, using genetic material to create other beings. We've already done it, like not with humans, but we could do it with humans. So
I
that's
bet
like
we already have done it with humans, you know.
I mean, that's not too far off. The psychic thing, the floating psychic guy, a bit crazy, but it was like, this is a game about a giant robot being fought by a clone. It's the future, you know. What can you say? It kind of makes sense. But then by the time you go through 2 and you've got Vamp, the fucking Jesus vampire, and then by the time, I mean, I missed 3 and 4, obviously, but it just seems like it's ramped up the mental to a ridiculous degree. Like every single time, it's been like, well, the last time was a bit crazy, but I think we can go further. I think we need a dude on fire who can't go over streams or something, or be rained on, or whatever the reason was given for him stopping the pursuit. Because I'm sure it was something like that, wasn't it? He went over a river.
Water stops him. I think it was raining as well.
Yeah,
And I think you jump into the sea or something, but you stop him in the building with the sprinkler system when he's coming for you the first time. So it's like
it's just crazy. It's so
but it's like a whole segments on that prologue bit where you've got like loads of the Cypher armored guys firing at him, and then he reflects the bullets back and kills them. But this doesn't seem to like have any impact on the thought process of the other 30 guys who just watch this happen, because they then run into the room and then start firing at him as well. And there's a totally ridiculous bit where like an armored fucking tank smashes through the door of the hospital, right? Parks in front of the flaming guy. The turret is facing the wrong way. The turret just spins round, point blank, and goes boom, and fucking rails him. Like, now obviously it doesn't affect him because the shell hits him, and he goes and blows up like that. And it hits the tank, and the tank fucking flies out of the building because the tank just shot itself. But it's a tank, ain't it? So so what does it do? It just fucking drives back into the building and rams him. It's like, yeah, come on. It's just so stupid.
Oh god.
But like, honestly, right? I went into it and I knew Revengeance was stupid. I didn't know that Metal Gear was stupid as well. I thought Metal Gear was... I thought it had stupid, like, ludicrous lore, but I still thought it was a serious game. But it just isn't. It's just, like, mental. It's just like... yeah, by the way, Flaming Whale. And you just like...
That's my favourite thing about the whole thing. I don't care what else happens. It's like...
What? And then they talk about whaling ships. It's like, oh, we're going to get to Afghanistan on a whaling ship. It's like, oh yeah, there was just a flaming whale. Japan as well, you know, whaling, you know, killing whales for scientific research.
Weird,
but
isn't it? There's just like crazy references to actual things, but it's mixed into just a world of complete insanity. And the thing is, it's like... there's obviously going to be people going, oh, I don't know why, you know, stop complaining, it's just a game and stuff like that. It's not really a complaint. It's not like, oh god, this game's terrible because it's so mental. But it is mental. It's like, it's just...
Yeah.
And the whole thing...
It's not terrible. No. It's just a game. That's the thing.
Yeah,
it's literally just a game. It isn't like... I thought it was going to be serious. It's not. It's stupid. I mean, at one point, I'm running past some goats and I get a call and it's like... you know, this sound effect. It's like, Snake, UNESCO have said that there's an initiative to save wildlife from war zones. If we can bring them back to Mother Base, they'll give us a reward. It's like, oh yeah. So there's goats, and I'm tranquilizing them with my fucking tranquilizer gun, and then attaching a Fulton to them and firing the goats off. It's like, and there's apparently bears and stuff you can do it to, and it's just so stupid.
I love that idea. You're being sent on a covert mission. It's like, right, we need to be careful here. Don't alert anyone. Oh, can you just tag that bear? Can you just grab the bear? Just as you go past, just shoot the bear and send it off into the sky. If you could just do that whilst you're on your way to your top secret mission. It's what?
And the way you recruit people for your base as well is just to take them out, knock them out, and then attach the Fulton to them and fire them off. And they either become a recruit or go in the brig. Got back to a base, got 10 new recruits. These are guys who I've just kicked the shit out of. And when you're walking around your base... They salute you, and you can just beat the shit out of the. You can just batter them and chuck them on the floor.
And they get guy salutes you, and you just went up and just choked him out and left him on the floor. So what the fuck?
But the more you visit your base, right, the higher the morale goes. So they work better because it's like the legend of Snake has returned. But if you don't go back to your base for ages, they get sad because you haven't turned. Like, and if they're happy, they make shit faster. Like they'll research your new weapons and build your new weapons faster. It's just. it's good fun. It's just stupid good
Yeah.
fun, and it's the first game that I've played on the PS4 that's worked at 60 FPS and has been enjoyable. I know it's available on the PC, but I got the PS4 version just because it was cheaper, and I didn't trust Konami to actually release a acceptable
Well,
PC version. Although apparently it is okay. Apparently, obviously if you bought the physical version, then you just had an 8 meg downloader.
yeah.
But
Can you imagine the
still,
backlash? It would have been shit on PC though. I feel like they couldn't really fuck this up because it was such a. It got way more press than I think it would have done if it hadn't been for all the drama.
Yeah.
I think that was a big factor in it. But it does look totally mental. But I have to admit, seeing you play it, it kind of reminded me that Sons of Liberty was actually quite a good game, and I did enjoy it. And now I feel like I've missed out on a series because I played the first one, played the second one, but I haven't played any of the others. Like 3, 4, Ground Zeroes, I didn't touch that, and now 5 and 5. A bit, I know it looks mental, and it is mental, but it's like this is obviously a very long franchise with a lot of detail and a lot of story and a lot of characters. Because all the people you were coming across, I vaguely recognised.
I think you're fucked. I'm fucked.
Like,
I mean, I've just turned up the last one basically, and it's like
yeah. It's like
I don't know what's going on.
How do you join a series when it's that far in?
Well,
I mean, I don't even know if you can with
there's audio tapes that do tell you what's going on.
MGS5.
There's audio tapes that do tell you what's going on, but they may as well not exist because it's just so random. It's like,
and it's not the same as actually experiencing the story, is it? It's like you can get a vague idea as to what's gone on, but you kind of need to be like in on it from the beginning. And I obviously don't think that's a problem. Like that's obviously not an issue, but it does mean that I'm like, this could have been quite good, but I'm not going to know now. I do not have time to play 3, 4 Ground Zeroes and 5. I do not have the time. No, it's impossible.
This game's hundreds of hours in length. I mean, what the hell? Like, it's like another Witcher 3 to me. I want to play it, but I have not got enough time. Like, I might stream it a few more times, but then playing it beyond that, I just ain't gonna have enough time.
Yeah.
I can't just go and play a game for 5 hours every fucking day. I've got a job, but you know what I mean? It's like, Jesus, hell. But I really want to play it, you know? Like,
yeah.
Not as much. Well, here's the thing. I don't want to play it as much as I did Witcher 3, because I was like, any spare time, let's go Witcher 3. This, though, I'm like, I just don't know what I'm going to get from it. It's like a magical treat of like, I'm just going to load it. I mean, it's 18 as well,
like,
which is good. I'm just going to load it up.
You know what Witcher 3 is? I think you know what Witcher 3 is fairly early on. And it's like, if it grabs you, it will grab you. But if it doesn't grab you, it won't. For me, it was like, I really enjoyed Witcher 3. But honestly, I found the size of it just intimidating. That's the only way to describe it. It was like, I didn't feel like I could... Like, if I had a... This actually kind of works quite well. Because like, if I sit down and I've got a spare hour, I know that in that hour, in Mad Max, I can go and I can clear out a stronghold. I can do that in an hour. That's fine. I never felt that with Witcher 3 I could go in and just play it for an hour, because I knew full well that either I'd get caught doing something when I needed to stop that I wouldn't be able to finish, or I would just keep playing, and whatever else I had to do would then be like fucked. I'd be late on something, or I'd have to stop it at a stupid time, and then that would put you off and going back in. As a result, I didn't play Witcher 3 that much because I sat down to play it when I had like a guaranteed 3 hours spare. And I'll be honest, that happens like once every 2 weeks, if I'm lucky. So it's like, what do? I want to play the game, but I'm never going to have time to complete it. Never. Not in a million years. Unless everything stopped now. Like if the dog went and disappeared and my wife left to the dog, there's no way. That's the only...
It's like the ultimate Kiri disaster.
And
so
also we didn't
Witcher 3.
And we didn't have to make hotfix or Pubcast or any content for the channel, then I'd be able to play Witcher 3.
Just become a recluse.
Like,
then you can play Metal Gear Solid as well at the same time. Yeah, I think Witcher 3 is still a better game from what I've played so far, in my opinion. Metal Gear Solid is what it is, which is crazy. Witcher 3 is more of a... I don't know, but they are kind of... They're similar in ways, because they're still open world games and there's a lot of content and stuff, but... Yeah, this Metal Gear Solid is certainly an experience. And you know what? It's made by a guy called Hideo Kojima. I'm not sure.
I hadn't realised that.
If you realise this.
I mean, I vaguely heard the name, like, every now and again.
It pops up on the screen sometimes.
I think it was
not
mentioned occasionally, but really, he needs to make it more clear.
What he should have done is put his name on the box, because he didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe he didn't and it got screwed off. Yeah, no, it's just stupid. Like what it does is at the start of every mission you go on, it comes up like the credits as if it's you're watching a TV show, and it'll be like directed by Hideo Kojima, screenplay Hideo Kojima, game design Hideo Kojima, and it's like fucking hell. Is it just? And then like when you complete the mission, it all comes up again, and it's like it's just stupid over the top. And in the prologue, it just comes up constantly on the screen all the time.
Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay. But okay, look, listen. I know there's loads of die-hard Metal Gear Solid fans out there, and you'll probably attack me for various comments I've made, or maybe you won't. But it's just insane, and I'll leave it at that.
There's a giant floating flying whale. I mean, come on.
On fire.
On fire. Tell me that is not mental. I don't care how much Metal Gear Solid you play.
I think the floaty little girl has got like telekinesis, and the fireman can set things on fire. So I think they work together.
Oh, right.
And she like ripped the whale out of the sea, and he set it on fire.
Why a whale? Why not a car? Or
Probably because like whale oil burns good, Dishonored style. I don't know, bro. Who knows? But it's like a sperm whale. You know, it's massive. It's like what?
She should have gone for blue whale. Blue whale or bust. God, absolutely mental. Well, something that I played yesterday, actually. I'll talk about Mad Max a bit later, but I played Acts of Aggression, the campaign for that.
Oh shit!
That's been
I haven't
released
played
now.
this. Yeah, I want to play the 1v1.
Play the 1v1.
I'll play it later.
Campaign, not great. I'm really disappointed because there was quite a bit of potential there, because there's crazy technology, there's mental units. It's got a very good feel to it. It's quite generals in how it feels, but the campaign is far too straight-faced. It doesn't have any humor. Like this is the big problem.
Trying to be serious, like.
Yeah, it's like a Tom Clancy book. It's like, there's war breaking out between the US and Mexico, and there are all these VIPs who are littered around cities, and you need to save them, or you need to capture this person, and if we don't do this, then there'll be severe repercussions for the rest of the world. This is a clandestine operation. The UN can't be tied to this. Blah blah blah. It's just not. It's not compelling, and it's not interesting, and it's like the missions are based around the story, but the story is really, really just straight. Like the good thing about, I mean, RTS games traditionally, a story is like it's good to have a campaign with an RTS game, and you can either go simple or you can go kind of full plot, and it depends kind of on what you want to go for. Command and Conquer, like Generals, for instance, the gameplay is quite similar to Active Aggression, or the other way around, whichever way you want to phrase it. But the campaign was like, it wasn't stupid, but it was humorous. It has like little flashes of jokes, and it's light-hearted.
Right, so
it's not like kind of
the General's campaign was terrible. The 0 Hour didn't have a campaign; it just had general challenges. So you'd have like, it was cheesy. That was like typical Command and Conquer cheesiness, where it was like when you played against the USA Laser General, he'd keep saying things like, let me put on a light show for you, and then he'd fire a particle cannon at you or something. It would be like cheesy like that. Do have different styles though. So if you look at Command and Conquer, Tiberian Dawn, that's serious. Yeah, it's not cheesy. Yeah. There's only like a couple of instances of cheesiness. One of them is with the Doctor, whose name I've totally forgot. He's the Tiberium Doctor, and he like says cheesy things about the science of Tiberium. You can see it's been made up, and it's almost like cheesy Star Trek feel to it, but it's still fairly serious. Then you get Red Alert, which is serious again, because that's like, I mean, I cover all of this in the video I put on the channel, but I'll just recap it shortly. I made it like a top 5 Command and Conquer games for the 20th anniversary of Command and Conquer, because it came out on 1995, August 31st, which is pretty ridiculous. But Red Alert is the whole thing of like, what if Hitler was dead for World War II? Yeah. What would have happened? Stalin would go crazy. And it's still serious. It isn't stupid. And then you get Tiberian Sun, which is, again, it's like a cheesy action movie, Tiberian Sun is, but it's still kind of serious, right?
Yeah.
It's still serious, but I mean, everybody remembers that, like, Kate lives in death, and then the guy gets his neck slit on the stage. It's all over the top stupid, but it's not stupid. And then you get Red Alert 2, where they're just like fuck this, and it's just totally insane.
Red Alert 2.
It's like totally insane. But then, so you end up with like, Active Aggression could have done a serious campaign and it'd be okay, but active aggression is very similar to generals, and generals
Yeah,
is not serious. So if it was a piss take, and even like the active aggression devs, they compare the game to generals. They
yeah.
were tweeting things like "Move over, Command and Conquer." The new game is here. I mean, Command and Conquer 3, that's cheesy
But
and
see,
serious, but it's a lot more cheesier than the other Command and
yeah.
Conquers, apart from Red Alert 2, which just goes crazy.
The
And
thing
Red
is,
Alert 3, I never liked, but that's
even though, but what I mean is like the storylines are serious and the campaign is overall serious in tone, but it's lightened. Like you have got those characters that are they're still taking part in a serious story, but they might have like a bit of cheesy dialogue or like a bit of
yeah.
silly dialogue or something. There's something to lighten the mood. You know, it's not just oh you've got to do this or everything's fucked like over and over and over again. And you know, it's not like a massive overemphasis on stuff. And you can still have, I think you can still have a serious campaign without it being dull. But the problem is that Acts of Aggression's campaign is a bit dull. Like the Command and Conquer ones, for however serious they were, weren't boring. Like you weren't going from one mission to the other, kind of going, "Oh well, I guess we'll just see what this is." It's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, that was
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
cool. Let's see what happens next." Act of Aggression is just like, "Oh, this area is trying to form their own state, and the US is going to war with them, and there's all these people that are vaguely connected together. You are part of the UN." Like I was doing the Chimera campaign. It's like this is a clandestine operation. UN can't know. Blah blah blah. But it's just like that for everything. Everything is exactly like that. And instead of it kind of embracing kind of the weirdness of the universe, whereby a bunch of guys turn up and they've got cloaking tech, and it's but the stupid thing is that you are playing Chimera, so you know what cloaking tech is. Like you know what cloaking tech is. You've got cloaking tech yourself.
Then they have
So
cloaked helicopters.
yeah, so when these guys turn up, it's like they've got they've got active cloak camouflage. These aren't ordinary rebels. Where did they find such technology? And you're like, well, you fucking got it. Like, I know that at that time I hadn't unlocked the option to build the cloaked units, but you like, they know they obviously have that stuff because they have a fucking helicopter coming to rescue the VIPs. So the technology is obviously not completely alien to them, and it's not like they don't know how to do it because that's the point of that faction. And it's like it's very kind of everything is a great drama and oh, this is so
Yeah,
shocking and I
yeah.
can't believe
Too
this has happened.
serious.
And it's just really like po-faced and just like, oh, I just wanted someone to make a joke or just say something like, I would have been happy with like, I know General's campaign wasn't great, but I just wanted something that was a bit more self-aware of what it was and what its influences are because it feels very General's influence. As you said, they're like, they keep saying, oh, it's like Generals, move over, Command and Conquer, etc. There's just not a lot of self-awareness in the campaign. It's like it's not acknowledging just how crazy this is. Instead, it's just like your standard spy kind of espionage private army storyline, which frankly we've got enough of. There are enough books
Yeah.
and games ready about that. We didn't need another one.
Well, World in Conflict launched. Well, it didn't launch. It's out on GOG. You can pick it up on GOG now, and that's
Yeah,
got a. From what I remember of that, that is the Soviets invade the US in the Cold War. I think it's set in the 80s, but that's a very serious storyline. That's not stupid, but that's a seriously good storyline.
yeah.
That's a really good single player
I mean, that's the
campaign.
thing.
That is
It
for an
can be
RTS
done.
game.
It can absolutely be done. There are countless games where the storyline is for an RTS, and I think doing a good RTS storyline is in a way harder than doing like a third person or first person shooter or whatever, simply because there is no central character for an RTS. Like you are not the protagonist, you are not the hero.
They tried
You
this.
are
Well,
like
this is quite a good debate. They tried this with Tiberian Sun, right, and it worked quite well because Tiberian Sun, the story in that is you are. It's very much between Slavic, Anton Slavic, who is the Nod commander who you play as, yeah,
yeah,
reporting to Kane, reporting to Cabal, and it's him against McNeil, who's the guy from Aliens, I think, whatever his name is, but him against it's like their personal battle. Like it's those two commanders against each other, and they've
yeah.
both got a commander above them. Like what the one's got the general guy for GDI, and the other one's got Kane, obviously. Command and Conquer Tiberian Dawn, the first one was your that was not against GDI, so it wasn't a personal story. Command and Conquer 3 was sort of again, wasn't really a personal story because they were talking to you as if you are the commander. It wasn't represented in the game as a character. It's
Yeah,
like,
see, that's
Commander, we need you to do this. Commander, we need you to do that. Like, Red Alert 2 does it that way as well. But what Red Alert 2 does is it's just completely insane. I mean, Red Alert 2 is just insane.
well, that's
It's
the
just
thing. I
like,
mean, it's like in active aggression, you are commander
you
of
are the
this
commander,
thing,
but it's too serious.
but
yeah.
yeah, and everything that you do is like, commander, we need you to do this. We need you to do it now.
Is it got live
Don't
action
let-
cutscenes, or is it just like...
No, it's
No.
got like kind of, it gives you a bit of news, like it shows news from the time, and then it gives you the briefing, and you've got a little face up here, and it's like a little hologram thing.
Yeah,
over
like,
the,
Grey Goo did that.
Yeah, and
That's
it's like
how
over the world. And
Grey Goo did it. So Grey Goo was from some of the guys from Petroglyph, who I think, well, it's from Petroglyph. Sorry, it was some of the guys from Westwood who were involved in that. But the way that did it is it had like a really nice 3D render. It was almost like CGI 3D render of the people on a hologram talking to you.
It's
like the
that,
characters
it's
in the
not
game.
High budget.
And they were like, Commander, we need to do this. But that single player campaign was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get why Active Aggression didn't just get some cheap actors in and just do cheesy cutscenes, because anybody can film that these days, and it would be just as stupid. Because that's what gives Command and Conquer its charm.
It would have worked, and the thing is, it's the game itself has its charm, but the campaign doesn't have any charm, because it's just like, it is Commander, but it's Commander, we need to do this. This is a clandestine operation. No one must know the UN is involved. But you get that at the start of every bloody mission.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we need to pick up these VIPs, but no one must know. Oh, Commander, do this, but no one must know. And it's like, I'm kind of bored of hearing about this already, and I'm only 4 missions in, and how you're supposed to get people further in. Like, if the story isn't engaging, if it's not like, it's made out to be urgent, but then you're giving resources that are not urgent. So it's like, we need to rescue these 4 VIPs. Here is is your main base, here's a barracks, here's a vehicle bay. You can build 3 types of troops, 1 type of vehicle, go. And it's like, you've just told me that this is incredibly important, and like the fate of the Western Hemisphere relies on this. Why the fuck have you given me an APC and a rifle guy? Like, where's the actual urgency from that? It's like, that's one of the big problems with RTS games anyway. But what you do is you tailor the scenario to fit, the tech level that you've unlocked. And
you have to want to complete the mission to get to the next.
Yeah.
There needs to be something which is like, you have to, like, you need a will to complete the levels, because RTS games, they can't be fucking open world games, can they?
Yeah.
Whatever mission you're on that mission, and you have to do what the mission, like, what's going on in it. It has to be engaging enough to make you want to do it. Get to the next one, see what happens. Your reward with Command and Conquer would be, is a cutscene once you've done it, and something would happen.
I think as well, something that I think actually might have worked with Active Aggression and keeping me interested is like teasing the next level of tech. So like, you start out and all you've got is riflemen, then you've got snipers, and then by like the 3rd mission you've got APCs and snipers and guys with the little grenade launcher things. If in that mission where at the end you've got to get all you guys back to base, except I didn't, because I just left them all over the map, and it's like, oh, no one left behind, get all you guys back to base, and I was like, no, and it just ended it anyway, and so I'd succeeded, so I don't know what was going on there. If you give me like the most basic of basic units for like a few levels in a row, then I'm not going to be that compelled to carry on, because it's like, well, where are the tanks? Where's the interesting stuff? Where's the stuff that makes this faction what it is? Because at the moment I'm not getting that. I'm just getting APC and men, which is, I mean, what faction doesn't have that in any RTS game ever? Everyone's got one of those. This is not grabbing me. If like they turned up with one of their crazy mega tanks and was like, we've managed to lift this in, use it wisely, you've got to protect the convoy with this, I'd be like, okay, that's pretty cool. They're using a unit. If I don't get access to one, got to protect it, I've got to try and use it effectively. Instead it's just, here's all the shit guys, off you go. And I mean, that's a pet peeve of mine for any RTS game, but it kind of helps if you actually do have that kind of extra bit of humor or self-awareness. It helps with that, because it's like you've got something to distract you from the fact that you are just doing a really bland mission with really bland tech.
People went crazy when Tiberian Sun introduced the Mammoth Tank Mark II and the Cyborg Commando. Not so much with the Cyborg Commando, because Nod never really had a super unit, but Nod's like, from Tiberian Dawn, they're like, I guess, high-end unit was the stealth tank, which you still got in Tiberian Sun. And it was still just as effective, kind of effectively as shit as it was before. It's all right. It's all right because it's stealth and you can ambush people, but it can't take no damage, and it doesn't really do that much damage to stealth tank. I never really liked the stealth tank. But what they did do to GDI is you cannot build the Mammoth tank. Instead, they gave you the Mammoth Tank Mark II, which is this the only unit you could build. Well, you can only build one of them.
Yeah.
So you kind of got that like exclusive feel to it. But what had happened to the Mammoth tanks? Like at least with Command and Conquer 3, EA realised that the Mammoth tank needed to come back, and so it did.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, but actually,
it's such an iconic unit. It was stupid for them to not. It should have been in the game. The Mammoth tank should have been in Tiberian Sun as a unit you could build.
It's a good time to talk about. We had a game of that.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. It reminded me how terrible I am at the game, but it's still a really enjoyable game. And it does actually, I know it doesn't look fantastic anymore, but it still holds up really well gameplay wise. It's still really fun. Admittedly, some of the units are just so strong. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, like the Cyborg Commando.
The Cyborg Commando can just wreck everything. Like, he took out about 4 armies of mine by the time he died. Admittedly, you had to rebuild him every time, but I'm pretty sure I lost far more stuff. Like, in terms of money.
$2,000 he was.
2? The fucking Mammoth Mark II's $3,000. And he can nearly kill that.
Yeah, he can nearly kill that in mano-a-mano combat, guys.
It's fucking ridiculous. On the Hunter Seeker. I mean, what the hell was that?
Oh yeah, who could forget the Hunter Seeker thing?
Especially the fact that your base was cloaked and I could still blow up your buildings. It just like it's like
a balance issue. If you're playing on a massive map, right? Because Fog of War isn't Fog of War's a thing, but it doesn't like regenerate. It's like once you've scouted an area, you can just see what's going on in the area. Now, if you're not, you can just put stealth generators down, can't you? So they can't see shit. They've got to get into your base and fucking. I think you have to use a sensor array, that mobile truck, which has got a big range on it, but you'd have to move that up, which obviously the Nod player would see, probably do something about. But like, just to highlight how stupid this was, Kiri had built a base, like with a couple of refineries and shit, and I captured that base. I did was because you got the subterranean transports, ain't you, with Nod, so you can like just pop, and it's like yeah. Although you can detect that with the sensor things as well. If you set them up, they'll detect incoming. I think they might say subterranean signature detected or something like that. And I think you can put concrete down as well to stop them coming up. But what I did was I popped right up next to his base. Like 4 engineers came out, captured the buildings, and as soon as they captured them, I just deployed the stealth generator, so it was gone. And he never even realised because it was just gone off the map. Like, how would he know? You know,
I know it sounds stupid, but I knew that I had a base somewhere, and then I realised it wasn't there anymore. I just assumed it had been destroyed.
Yeah,
and
but
I didn't
stealth.
I just didn't even think about the fact that you could just capture it and then stick a stealth generator down. And there's some of the other stuff is just like what is it? Not the flame tongue. One of your is it the attack bike you've got? The Nod. The Nod have got the
the little fast attack bike. Yeah.
Those are the bane of just any aircraft ever. It's horrendous. They just shoot it down immediately. And I'd forgotten just how fragile everything is in that game.
Yeah, everything's really fragile, isn't it? If you got something of the same like kind of worth, it destroys the other thing dead quick.
Yeah. And like buildings would just evaporate. Like even to small arms fire, a building will just die. And it's like, hang on a minute, that's a refinery. How did that guy kill that before I could kill him? That's insane. And I mean, it's still really good, but it is definitely, I think we've come a fair way since that game was released. And I'm kind of, I know,
but they're fun games. Though.
They are fun.
It was really fun, like playing it multiplayer. It's not serious. It isn't like, God, I'm rushing you for this. It's just like pissing around with units, and you miss that. I miss that.
I do miss that, but I will confess that I am happier in a modern RTS where my buildings can survive more than 4 shots. I like that. I much prefer that approach to thing other than the dreaded Hunter Seeker, where you just see it fly across the map, and then one of your tech centers just disappears.
Yeah,
So
the Hunter Seeker is like, I suppose you can call it a super weapon, but it just kills anything it hits. It doesn't matter what it is in one hit, but it randomly selects the target from everything on the map. So it could be just a lowly rifleman it kills, or it could be something worth a bit of cash. I mean, when I played Kiri, I built like a main base, which is quite big. Then I had another massive base. Then I had his little bit I'd captured. But because I had his technology, I'd obviously built the ion cannon control center and everything he could have. So I'm firing the ion cannon at him and laughing, claiming it's some sort of laser I've got. And you're like, what the fuck is this? But it was the ion cannon.
I just couldn't remember what units both factions had, so I was like, did they get that?
But then here's the thing. he fires a Hunter Seacroft and it blows the ion cannon control center up. Uh, I mean, the build, it must have cost 10 grand or something for all of this. Because you build it and then you build the thing. Yeah, and it was close. And it hit that, blew it up. I'm like, what? Just so terrible. But it's just, and also GDI have got, no, and Nod have got that artillery, which is really powerful as a defensive thing.
Yeah.
Like, really powerful. Like, stupidly powerful.
Because the GDI got the Titan. The
walking tank thing, yeah.
That's not that strong. It seems strong, but you actually have to get like deceptively close for it to do anything. And it's only good against vehicles, really. And it dies so quickly. Although the is it the Orca bomber I had? That I kept...
Oh, that's really powerful, yeah. It blows like yeah,
it just blows stuff away. It's like, but it does it instantly. It just drops 2 bombs and anything it hits, it just dies. So I ended up having quite a few of them, but I couldn't afford all the landing pads for them. So I had to rotate them out. But then I just couldn't be asked, so I had one that had the bombs in, and the others had no bombs in, but I'd fly them all over anyway for intimidation. But eventually they just died, so...
Well, we used a thing called we use CNC Net for it, because I didn't realise it's kind of like OpenRA, but it supports Tiberian Sun as well as all the other games. It doesn't support Firestorm, which is kind of annoying, because I would have liked to have played the expansion, because it does have quite a few more new units and stuff, but... just straight up playing Tiberian Sun was kind of nostalgic. But yeah, it was quite good.
It was good fun, that was. It's absolutely ridiculous. But also your little guys who ran through the Tiberian but died, but they were still on your side, like the little cyborg lads with no legs. Who were just
they just got the...
They're solid. They don't die. They just...
they kill... They beat a Wolverine in combat, don't they?
Yeah.
And they're the same. You can build them straight away as well, so you can build them immediately out of the barracks when you put the Hand of Nod down.
Yeah.
But you can't if you're GDI. You've got to build the War Factory, haven't you?
Yep.
And these guys just go into Tiberian and heal themselves, and they're like, with that minigun. So good. I want to be a Nod cyborg when I grow up. Or fucking, I want to be the cyborg commando. He was solid.
He was
got like that plasma cannon.
I swear he's better than anything GDI I've got.
I think he's the best thing in the game.
He can take out so much stuff, and he can nearly take out the Mammoth, and the Mammoth is $1,000 more expensive. And you can't, like, the Mammoth, I think it heals itself, but the Nod guy, he can just stand in Tiberium as well, can't he, and get his health back. It's just crazy.
The thing with the Mammoth tank's dead slow though. The cyborg commando, you can put him in like the transports and shit and get him around.
Yeah, you have to build a dedicated transport to move the Mammoth, which is the carryall. Like, you have to airlift him with that.
And if it gets shot down, I think it kills it straight away.
Yeah. I really feel like Nod got all the toys for that particular one. It's crazy.
It's not balanced. It isn't balanced like fairly. I think Nod is the most powerful one, just hands down. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Unless there is some crazy tactics with GDI, but GDI get that tank, don't they, with the disruptor tank, which is really powerful. Yeah, which costs the same as a Mammoth tank, doesn't it? But it's really powerful. That is.
It costs so much. Oh god.
And then MLRS, the hovering missile system, which isn't that good, but
although that can go over water, so that's kind of not that it mattered on the map we were on because there wasn't no water. But it's
always strange that it never had any naval units in it, Tiberian Sun, because Red Alert had naval units in, if you remember. It had the sub pens and the naval yard.
It was Squiddy.
Did it? No, I don't
think
Red Alert had Squiddy. That's Red Alert 2.
Yeah, Red Alert 2 had the Squiddy.
Because it had the dolphin, didn't it?
Yeah.
Attack dolphin. Yes, let's strap a sonic wave emitter to a fucking... I mean...
I want to play Red Alert 2.
Yeah, I mean, dolphins communicate with the sonars. If they're firing fucking waves of sound out, surely it would destroy them. It's like, no.
They don't need to communicate. They just go over there and do that. You're not going to be able to talk again in dolphin speak.
How did they even train the dolphin to do it? Attack dolphin, fucking hell.
So the other game that I played this week was Mad Max, which I'm really, really enjoying, but it is very shallow. Like, it's very repetitive. I'm about, I think to say 9-10 hours or something in, and I've already done, I think, everything there is to do. But now I've just got to do it over and over again. Like, it feels like a very bloated game because it's massive. Like, the map is huge. I was looking at it and I was like, oh man, it's going to take me ages to finish this game. This area is bloody huge. No, that was one area, and there are 4 areas. So I thought, because there's like I'm in an area which is it's Jeet's territory. So Jeet is the
All
war.
different warlords, like in
Yeah,
the
yeah,
area. So
he's the warlord in that area that I've got to deal with, and I was in Balefire, which is one of his little areas in his territory, and honestly, the territories are just huge. They are absolutely massive, and they come with little camps for collecting scrap. There's a convoy as well in the territories that you can take over, which has a lead vehicle in it that's got a crazy hood ornament on it that you need to destroy the vehicle and take it off it, which is the only reason to get it. I can't remember if the hood ornament does anything. I don't think it does. It just
just
looks,
like a trophy. Yeah.
it just look pretty good. I've got a massive the skull from Fury Road that's all over all of Immortan Joe's vehicles. It's like the big screaming skull thing. I've got that on the front of my car, and it looks quality. But again, it was a right bitch because the convoy was absolutely solid.
How long do you think it'd take to complete if you just went straight through it? Because I've seen streamers who had streamed the game in like one streaming session and they've completed the game. You know, we're talking like 7 hours maybe.
If you're just doing the story, I think maybe about 6-7 hours sounds about right. I think you could blast through it, but I haven't been doing just the story because like I wanted to upgrade my car and stuff, which actually leads me on to one of my biggest dislikes about the game, which is just all it is an oversight. That's all it is, but it's still fucking stupid as oversights go. I collected a load of scrap. I found 3. They're called scrapulances, which are like an ambulance, but they're full of scrap. And they get like they're going from enemy camp to enemy camp.
Yeah, it's like transport of scrap.
Yeah, it's vital
like
engine parts and all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And I found 3 of them in quick succession, which is actually apparently they don't turn up that often. So to find 3, I was like, holy shit! They give you like 700 scrap a piece when you take them back to the warlord's base. So of course I found 3 in a row, got them back to the base. And I was like, oh my god, I can afford all the upgrades for my car. This is quality. So that's what I did. I upgraded the shit out of my car, and I had like spikes all over the wheels. I had spikes all over the car. It had a better V6 engine because I haven't unlocked the V8 yet, even though V6s can piss off in Mad Max.
Isn't the V8 the big thing with Mad Max? Doesn't he have like the last V8 something
Max
Interceptor or something?
Max even says to the Hunchback guy, he's like, "The fuck is this? This is a V6. I want V8." And the guy's like, we need to get it. And he's like, "We need a V8 in this car now." And I'm like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, all right.
Give him a V12, he shit himself.
Yeah. So like I upgraded my car like loads. I had all the upgrades that I could possibly get on it. Like everything I'd unlocked, so it was way better than it should be at that point of the story. And so I get to another part of the thing, like another section of the story, and I'm like, okay, so I need to get past this massive gate. It's like a big armored gate called the Jaw, and you can't get through it without your car being like upgraded.
Yeah, like it's like a wall that you have to get through, like a barrier of progression.
You just can't get any further through the story without dealing with it, and to deal with it, you need to have an upgraded car. And I was like, well, okay, fucking hell, the car must need to be really upgraded because mine's solid. Like I can the rammer head that I talks about on Hotfix, I can ram one of those in the front and I'll win. That's how upgraded the car is. It's like it's solid. I had to downgrade it to get past that story.
Downgrade it?
I had to downgrade it because the parts I had on the car were better than the parts that the story required, and it wouldn't let me complete that part of the story without build. So this kind of actually ties into another thing. You've got the magnum opus, and you can build it and customize it however you like. As a side to that, you've got cars called the Archangels, which are they're like templates. So if you want this particular Archangel, you get the different parts for that Archangel. You build it, and that is your car. So your magnum opus has been transformed into, for the first part, it's the Archangel called the Jack, which is like a bit more armored, and it's got a slightly better engine, and that's about it. Except my car was better than the Jack. Like, it just was. Also, it forces you to use different bodies as well. Now, I can kind of understand why that is in a way, because it's so that you have a reason to collect all the bodies in the game for your magnum opus. I can understand that. But I had to have the body that I did not choose at the start of the game to make an inferior version of the car I was already driving to get past this part of the story. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just
So
fucking stupid. Like,
yeah,
it
it is.
doesn't.
Do you think this is something that you obviously wouldn't encounter if you were just going through the story missions and wasn't doing the extra stuff?
Yeah, I don't think you would. I don't think you would. I think if you're just doing the story stuff, then you'd only have enough scrap to upgrade your car to the point that that part of the story required. But I kept seeing like oil pumps and oil pump stations and like the storage stations for fuel and stuff like that. And I was like, I want to take these over because if you take them over as well, you get regular deliveries of scrap from friendly stations.
Oh,
So they
right.
collect it for you because you've liberated the camp. So they come and take it over, and it's like, oh, we'll give you free fuel and we'll give you scrap every however. I think it's like every hour. So like you want more of these. You want as many as you can. But in the process of doing them, you come across things like the scrapulences. You come across like groups
That's
of
such
free
an amazing
cars.
name, Scrapulent.
It's ridiculous. And you come across these little miniature camps with loads of scrap in them. And of course, when you do these big camps, there's scrap littered all over the place, and you collect the scrap. So if you're doing that, then you end up being able to upgrade the car more than the game
Oh, yeah.
requires. But instead of taking that into account and going, this car is obviously better than the one that is required for the mission, instead you have to downgrade it past the mission. And of course, the first thing I did was I passed the mission, and then I immediately went into the menu and put back all of the stuff
And real great,
that I had to take off, like including the body. Like I picked the body that I picked because I preferred it to the other bodies of the cars. So to then get like, if you were just doing the story, this would only be about an hour and a half in. To then go, that choice you made at the start of the game is completely meaningless because you got to change the body of your car. It's like, well, why the fuck did you have me pick a body?
Right,
If
you
were
mean
then
like
gonna have
Metal
me
Gear
make-
Solid, where you sit there for ages customizing his face, and it's
Oh yeah,
'cause it
it's not
comes
even
up
his
to you.
face.
No, it comes up to you, and it's like, Snake, we've got a bandage on your face. It's just so it's not because you're injured. It's just because we don't want people to recognize you. When obviously Snake's like the most recognizable person ever because he's only like slightly over his bossed eye. You can still see his face and well, you can see as much as you can see as my face right now. Snake, we've got to augment your face. So I made myself look like he looked like a guy from Mad Max, like one of the fucking war boys.
Yeah,
And I clicked OK, and he gets the mirror out, and he's like, "Look at you, Snake." Look, like, oh my god! And then 2 seconds later, you're just normal Snake again. I'm like, apparently that's just only for the online mode, but the game doesn't tell you this.
yeah.
Game's just like, go on, customize your face. Oh, by the way, you only get to see this in the online mode.
Yeah,
So
and it's
you're
like,
like, what?
it's infuriating because it's like you've picked it. It gives you the choice. It says pick this, and then, as I say, like from what you've said from other streamers doing doing the story, maybe like an hour and a half in, you just be told, no, you don't need that. Pick this instead. It's like it's really irritating, and there are going to be people who. I mean, I deliberately didn't pick the body that looked like the V8 Interceptor because I was like, as I was looking at it, I was like, I could pick that, but I bet everybody picks that because it's the Mad Max car, ain't it? So I deliberately picked a different body, which I liked. Imagine if you were like, oh my god, I can make Mad Max's car. And then the game just goes, no, you can't make Mad Max's car, fuck off. You'd be like, what the fuck is this? Like, I picked that because that's his car. Why have you not let me take... It's like, there's just... I mean, that's obviously quite a big flaw. Like, you can't restrict player progress and make them take a step backwards to advance the story. You can't
never force a player backwards, I don't think, in any...
It doesn't make any sense. Like, I literally had to put worse tyres, a worse engine, no protection from sideswiping on the car, and I think I had to change the exhaust as well, just to get past the story mission. And it was like the car was literally worse than it was when I started. And you just kind of left thinking, well, if I needed this car to get through that gate, then the car I just like replaced surely would have smashed the shit out of that. I mean, come on.
Yeah, like what?
And it's kind of that kind of irritated me, and I get the feeling that as I go through the story, like that's going to happen more often, and that's going to piss me off as well.
Especially the way you're playing it with like doing extra shit on the side. Yeah,
I don't know if I'm going to continue doing that, if I'm honest, because as I say, what I've done is I've taken out various oil pumping stations. I've taken out like storage
it's just
stations
getting boring now. Yeah,
it's the same thing every time. And it is fun. I'm not going to lie, it's fun. But I'm also not going to lie, it's going to get boring within the next couple of hours. I know it is, because the goal is always the same. The layout might be slightly different, but the goal is always the same. You always circle around the outside of the camp, you take out the defences of the car.
What you're describing here is like a Ubisoft open world game, like your Far Cry games and games like where it's the same thing. See, because Witcher 3 Witcher 3 looks like that on the face of it, where you've got this insanely large map, but they're not the same. Like everything is totally different. Like, the attention to detail in that is ridiculous, considering there's like thousands of things you can do. They're all different. It isn't like, oh, there's another base where, oh, look, I can just shoot the cage of these tigers and I'll go out and kill the guys and I can. So yeah,
it's very, it's
like,
just
I
a very,
hate that.
it's a very formulaic open world third person action game.
Because what they've done is they've just pointlessly inflated the size of the game for no reason. You're getting, like, now you've done the liberation of these oil pumps a certain number of times. You're not going to keep doing it because what's the point?
I've already done it. And
let's put another 300 in the game for you to fucking do. That's what annoys me.
And that's one of the big problems with Mad Max. It's like, this is one of the, I would if we did scores, I would absolutely knock like easily 2 points off a score simply because the game is bloated like to a ridiculous degree. Because the combat, for instance, the combat's quite well done. I do like the combat. It is Arkham style combat. It's, you know, Assassin's Creed style combat, that kind of thing. But it's not like, you know, when you do it in the Arkham games and Batman is flipping about all over the place and he's jumping about and he's like, you know, all really clinical and stuff.
It gets faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. Batman does,
I like the fact that they didn't do that in Max. Like, it doesn't work like that in Mad Max because Mad Max isn't Batman. He's not hugely athletic. He's got a gammy knee, for instance. You know, he's got support on his knee because his knee got wrecked. He's not fast. He's just a bit better at fighting than the people he's fighting. So he's not doing crazy dodges. He's not leaping all over the place. When he blocks a punch, he blocks it by taking, like, by lessening the impact, not by doing some crazy kung fu move where suddenly
it's like
he's not the hand away. He's just absorbing the hit with like his arm or his leg and then punching them back. And he doesn't get quicker. He just gets like, he has fury build up. So the more combos you put together, the more damage he does when he punches. So eventually, you are absolutely decking people. And I've got on my Max character, I've got gloves that have got nails sticking out of the knuckles.
Yeah.
So when he punches people, it really like wrecks them. And like when he gets close to walls and stuff, like he'll hold them against the wall with his arm across the throat
wall,
and just punch them repeatedly in the face. He'll do things like pick them up and slam them into the ground, but he's not doing it like Batman style where he's kind of pick them up and then throw them. He's going down with them. Like, he's picking them up and like throwing them over himself, but he's going down with them, and he's doing it in such a way so that they land directly on their neck. You know, it's designed to kill them. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And when he gets punched and stuff, it really looks like he's been punched. Like, he takes the hit and he like staggers, and he's like, "Oh fucking hell!" And like, you cannot react as quickly as you can in Batman. And I really like that because that's Mad Max. It's like he's not.
Well, it's like you said, he's not a superhero. No,
he's not a
bloody
guy. He's just a guy, and he is fighting a bunch of guys. But the other thing as well is that something that, like, someone complained about this, and it wasn't a reviewer. I think it was on the comments from that GameSpot video, and someone was like, "Oh, what I don't get is how can he even fight this many guys? They're normal people like him. They're not."
No, they're cancerous wastrels.
Yeah, that's the other thing to remember. The War Boys are like, they are incredibly ill.
They're weak as shit as well.
Unhealthy, and they're covered in tumours. They are literally cancer-ridden kind of religious fanatics with very little strength. You'll come across ones who are, you know, quite strong, but they're quite strong like for different reasons. So there's one guy, and I don't think it's face paint, but he's yellow. Like, his skin is yellow. He's quite clearly on the verge of death.
He's got like liver failure, hasn't he? That's what's going on with him.
But this is the thing. He's hard to deal with because he's got a knife and he does not give a fuck if he dies. He just charges at you, swinging wildly, trying to cut you before you inevitably beat the shit out of him and he dies. Like, that's what makes him hard to deal with. And I kind of like that because it's, you know, these guys are capable of doing damage to you, but there's quite a good reason that you're beating them. They're weaker than you by quite a lot. They're basically just cancer patients who've got out of bed and tried to punch a healthy man. That's not how it works. You know, you're not going to beat someone in that condition, and so most of the time they don't. That said, the combat is just Arkham style combat. So whilst it's satisfying and it is like, oh, you know, when you punch someone in the face,
it's just dead simplistic. You just spamming attack, then counter, attack,
There's
counter.
Various things you can upgrade and unlock that will make the combat a bit different, but
they're
just
not the same as Batman. Yeah,
they're not active abilities. So I've unlocked something where if I get someone against the wall, he buried his knee like in the guy's stomach, and then as he bent over, he took his elbow and stuck it in the back of his head, and just wrecked him, like just murdered him. Like he did
Murdered him.
it. You know, he'll do like finishing moves kind of a lot earlier because like with contextual things, so up against a wall or near some barrels, or you know, if there's a weapon on the ground, he might wreck them with that.
Grab him, yeah.
The shiv finishes as well. I love those. He's got like a little wasteland knife. Unfortunately, you lose the shiv when you do it, but it's still worth doing it. If you get someone who is particularly strong, like one of these crazy yellow guys, you get these black guys who've got like red eyes and they just go mental at you. Got like hoods and stuff on. If you stun them, you need to get rid of them quick because they dodge all of your attacks, they can parry you, and they can do unblockable attacks. So they're strong. So if you stun them, you can finish them with a shiv. And one of the finishes is they go to punch him, he hooks his arm around their arm, kind of rolls in behind them, gets the shiv out, cuts their neck open, and then as they fall forwards, he gets the knife and buries it in the base of their skull, and then just pushes them onto the floor, and the knife is still stuck out of them. And every time I do it, I'm like, oh god, that's a bit brutal, isn't it? Fucking hell, that feels really good, but then you lose the shiv. So it's like, I had a knife, but it's on the floor. Shit, and then you've got to try and fight the rest of them just with your hands. I like the fact that it's mostly unarmed combat. There are melee weapons, but they're kind of slow, and they are quite powerful, but they break quite easily as well. Because that's the other thing. So all the stuff in the wasteland
What
is
about
like
guns?
makeshift shit. You've got a shotgun. Well, I've got a double barrel shotgun.
Double barrel shotgun, yeah. Like
you can't carry a lot of ammo at the moment. I mean, I could. I need to upgrade how much ammo I can carry. But at the moment, I can only carry 3 shells, which is really useless for a for a double barrel shotgun.
Yeah.
But that's kind of... I honestly use the shotgun more for driving combat. Like, the best part of the game for me is the driving combat. It's so much better than any other part of the game. It's really good. The shotgun can be used for that. So you can... If there's a... Say you're in attacking a convoy, there'll be cars that have got the fuel tanks on the back, kind of in the style of his old
you
car.
can like blow the fuel tanks.
Yeah, you can swerve behind them. Like you can either boost or brake and swerve and skid to get behind them. When you aim in the car, in fact, when you aim at any point, it's like it goes into bullet time, and you pick your target, you fire, and then time speeds up and it fires. And it's like it. I think they kind of had to do that because the car combat is so hectic. It's like just impossible otherwise. But you can do stuff
Metal
like
Gear
that,
Solid 5 does that, and I don't really like it. When you get detected, it goes into a bullet time mode for about 5 seconds. Where I think it's to simulate like Snake's lightning reactions. Like he's been detected, and he can do something really quick. But often, all you're going to do is aim the gun at their head and cap them, and they're instantly dead, and then you don't get detected. Like so, it's like I don't really like that, but.
I think I wouldn't like it as much in Mad Max, but it kind of lends a sort of cinematic feel to it. It's kind of like that, the action slows, the gun gets pointed at the enemy, and then...
Does the Mad Max game make you feel like a guy who's driving around a vast area who is basically solid compared to the average idiot?
Oh yeah,
and he's handing out justice. Well, that's all it needs to do, really, doesn't it? To be a Mad Max game.
It makes you feel like Mad Max. You've got the wasteland driving. You've got the crazy car combat. The hand-to-hand stuff is going to get dull. In fact, it's already getting a bit dull. But I don't think you could have just made a game without him going anywhere without the car. Like I think you kind of need that stuff to break it up. Even though the cars are the most fun part, I don't see how it would work if you had a Mad Max game where he is only ever in the vehicle. Because I know that's mostly what he's in the films, but.
Well, it's not really, though, is it? I don't know. It's not really, is it? Because he's kind of like when I watch Fury Road, I expected him to be in his car. His fucking car gets blown up, don't it? He's hardly in it, is he?
Yeah.
He doesn't even get in his car, does he? The fuckers nick it.
They nick it.
He's in it, isn't he? And he just gets
and then he never gets it back. So they just drive it at him. He's like, "The fuck is this?" But yeah, it does feel like this. The best thing about it is it does feel like Mad Max. Like the world feels like Mad Max. So when you've got like Fury Road, for instance, you've got the Citadel and you've got Gastown in the distance. You can see Gastown, that's where they're going, except they end up not going there, obviously. And you know that there's a bullet farm here, and you know that there's going to be, there's where the crows are, where the buzzards are, all that stuff. They've done a really good job of putting that like into the game. There are areas where there's just nothing. There's an entire area just called the Dunes, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And I haven't been there yet, but it's just empty. like on all the other map areas, then you can see there's little bases and there's little roads and stuff. The dunes is just empty, so there obviously is one of those big barren wasteland areas. The rest of it, though, everything's very spaced out with little dwellings and stuff in between, but it's still. At first, I was like, "Oh, this is a bit cluttered," but actually, just because it doesn't show there being a fair amount of stuff in the wasteland in the films doesn't mean it's not there. Because the logistics of it wouldn't work otherwise. Like, where would they get all these, these slaves and these wanderers? Where would they get prisoners? Where would they get these people if there weren't places other than what you see? So I was like, okay, that's fine. I can actually understand that. It kind of works that way. And you're gonna have these little outposts. Hell, in Road Warrior, that oil pumping station, that refinery bit that he spends most of the film in. Well, I mean, what is that? It's a little station in the middle of nowhere, not really next to anything. And there's going to be loads of those places all over the shop. So it feels like Mad Max. The character is okay as Mad Max. He's like an okay Mad Max, but I think you're never going to get as good a Mad Max in a game as you are in a film because it's a different medium. So I don't think you probably shouldn't expect much from that.
If you were to get, like, I guess Tom Hardy's Mad Max now, if you would get him to do the voiceover, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah, and it delves a lot more into like the crazy lore and stuff of Mad Max, which I actually really like. So there's a lot of like religious mumblings in there, especially from your little hunchback chum. His name is actually Chum Bucket. He like when he's fixing the car, he prays to it. Like he talks about how the archangel
the Messiah bloke.
But he's like, the archangel of combustion gave me a vision of you. You are the saint. And it's like Max, obviously, he grew up in like the non-mental world.
So he's like, you idiot. Yeah.
So he's like one of the few sane people left. And the thing is, if you think about it, Max is probably what, like between 40 and 50, something like that. So it's not been that long that the world's been severely fucked up. But it's basically everyone's just gone mental. And like everyone is kind of attributing kind of holiness to everyday items. So like cars become a symbol of status and power, and people start to worship them because these are what allows you to survive in the wasteland. And so then they start to attach like gods and stuff to it, and you end up with people like Chumbucket, and he's like, all he is a mechanic. Like he's just a mechanic, but to him it's not a car, it's like a piece of sacred, it's like a sacred relic that he has to put together because the crazy voice in his head told him that some guy would drive it for him. And it's like Max is just, there are points in the game.
He's like, whatever.
Yeah, and he's like, he asked for a sniper rifle at some point, and the guy and Chumbucket's like, the what? The long shot. And he goes, oh yeah, okay, here you go. So it's like all this stuff has kind of gone back to, almost like gone back to just descriptive terms. It's a long shot.
It's like
because
mystical, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because that's what it does. It shoots, but really long. And it's like, it sounds like a stupid way to say it, but to them, that's kind of how the world has devolved. Whereas Max is just
this is an issue I've got with Mad Max. It doesn't seem to make sense because of the time frame. Because if Max is from the time when the world was okay, then the nuclear apocalypse hit, there would be loads of people like Max. It wouldn't just be everybody's fucked. Because everyone's like highly cancer ridden. It almost looks like this is the next generation of people after. But why would Max still be his age? It's like, has Max been in stasis somewhere?
I think either it happened during his lifetime, or he was kind of in a very lucky position whereby he, like, it talks about how he was, in the first one he was a cop, and they kind of, even in that film, they're already getting to that kind of religious state. Because they talk about how it's an interceptor, and it's the last of the V8 interceptors. Yeah, and even that is like, it sounds like an offhand comment, but then in like the wider scope of the Mad Max universe, it's like the cops
are they maybe
already
just in like a society that's sort of like kind of like a Walking Dead style thing where you've still got like little pockets of civilization that have lasted longer than everywhere else. So it might have actually been like 50 years ago, but he's sort of. Is it kind of like that?
I think so. Yeah, I think what it is like there are certain kind of people who manage to either grow up in an area whereby they were not kind of exposed to this crazy mental religious, cars are gods and we must worship them kind of thing, and they either retain that through contact with other people, or they end up just giving into it. Like the old women from the green place in Fury Road, they're a really good example because when you look at the age of them, it's like. They were obviously around, presumably at the start of all this, but they've still
So
gone a
like
bit
80 odd.
crazy. They're still like, oh well, the green place was taken by the crows, and it's like, well, what the hell does that mean? Except at the very start of the game, there's like the cutscene that I had to cut out because of stupid copyright claim bullshit. It talks about how the lucky people during the nuclear holocaust were the people who died, and the unfortunate ones were the ones who survived because they are like in a world where everything is death and decay, and they've lost everything they had, and they're almost like reaching for things to replace what used to exist. So you haven't got TV or radio or film or anything like that, or normal like societal interactions. Instead, you've got an area where if you go outside at the wrong time of day, a crazy dust storm will take the skin off your face and you'll die. If you go anywhere near like a road or what used to be a road, you will probably either be killed and someone will eat your flesh and drink your blood, or you'll be taken as a slave, or you'll be indoctrinated as some sort of soldier, or used as a blood bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think the overall thing is that there are occasionally people who are still slightly sane, but the world as a whole, when everything went to shit, they just lost their minds. And so the most powerful ones rose to the top. So like Immortan Joe from Fury Road.
Yeah.
I am pretty convinced that he is not one of the religious nutters. He started a religion, or at least he proclaims himself to be a prophet of a religion.
He's just abusing the idiots.
But, you know, he when he runs through the Citadel, it's really telling that he is not one of the ones that he commands, because he's got a pool of clean water. He's got access to clean water. He knows the value of it more than anyone because it's the seat of his power. He's got plants growing. He's got a safe, like a vault full of books and a piano and shit. It's like he isn't a lunatic. His son Rictus, he is a mental. Like
he's like a 10-foot mental.
Yeah, and all of the war boys, they're all nutters as well. Like they're either like severely infected with cancer or nuclear radiation or whatever, or they've been born with illness.
They're horrendously deformed as well.
Yeah, and so they either grow up or are forced into this crazy kind of religious fervor about engines and about how, you know, you'll go to the gates of Valhalla and stuff. And then you've got
ride chrome shine,
or
whatever it is.
And then you've got people like Max, and you've got people like Immortan Joe, people who are like they
know the deal. Yeah,
they didn't fall, like they didn't lose their shit when everything went wrong. Instead, they found the will to keep living as close as they can to how they were. Which, I mean, it's either you run away eternally like Mad Max does, or you become in charge, because you can't have a crazy religious nutter be that in charge. I mean, there's actually in Fury Road, there's 3 really good examples of people who are not crazy but are on the crazy side. You've got Immortan Joe, you've got the guy from Gastown. You know, he's all about facts and figures and numbers. He's got an abacus in the back of his car. He's measuring how much gasoline they're using, how many bullets they're using. He's doing it due to an alliance with Immortan Joe, because Immortan Joe provides war boys to help with his the protection of Gastown. So he's doing it not because he's a religious nutter and he believes that, you know, the wives of Immortan Joe is some sort of precious commodity, but because he knows full well that Immortan Joe's got a massive fucking army. He needs him for gas, and he needs Immortan Joe for protection. So let's send the war boys to die. You know, that's, you know, and the same thing for the guy from the Bullet Farm. I mean, he goes a bit crazy about ironing the scales of justice, so he's clearly losing his shit at some point. But he's clever enough to get himself in a position where all of the ammunition for that region...
Ain't he the guy that gets blinded? Who's the guy that
gets blinded?
Yeah.
He's got a hat made of bullets.
Oozes or something.
Yeah. But he's obviously clever enough to get himself in a position where he manufactures like all of the ammo for the region. If you need ammo for your guns, so if you want to go to war, you've got to go to him.
Yeah.
You don't get that way by being one of the by being Chumbucket out of the game. You don't get that way by being like him, because he spends all his time in an erect ship drawing pictures of V8s on the wall, going, one day someone will arrive and be able to drive this thing, because that's not how it works. And I really like that, because actually in the game that comes across really well. You've got people like just going mental. You know, you've got crazy religious fanatics. You've got people who are still a bit like on the edge, but they're keeping it together. Like the warlords, like Jeet, for instance, is a bit mental, because he's got bits of metal hammered through the bits of his flesh that are coming off due to cancer. So he's obviously a bit off it.
Keep him on.
But he also acknowledges that the war boys in the area are they're like a plague. They've wrecked everything. You know, we had a good life here. and all they did was bring death and decay. So he knows full well that he might be on the turn, like he might be a bit crazy, but he is not full-on war boy, religious fanatic crazy. And it's the same with the other warlords you meet early on, who is like, it's blatantly obvious that, again, he's not one of these nutters. And that's one of the things I really like about Mad Max as a whole, because it's like, it's called Mad Max. The implication is that the main character, Max, is the nutter.
He's mad.
In reality, he's like
Yeah.
one of the only sane people left. Everyone else has just lost it. They're just, they're talking shit. They're killing each other for no reason. They started worshipping machines, treating cars as the only thing to aspire to, and they're prepared to die fighting other people for resources that could be shared out equally. Whereas he just doesn't want to be part of that. He's like, I don't want to.
Well, the war boys are not necessarily fighting for the resources, are they? They're just fighting for what they believe in.
Yeah,
it's very similar to like a medieval kind of world, to be honest. It's like
it is. Yeah,
going off on mental religious crusades and God knows what, just because they've been told to do so by somebody who's in a position of power and knows how to abuse them. So it's interesting because a lot of people, to me, it just be like, oh, Mad Max is the guy driving around in the car. But when you do look at it, you realise that it's actually quite a lot deeper than it is. And
that's one of the
I'm
things
kind of happy that the game is not bad, and I'm happy that it does sort of reflect that. But
yeah,
I still understand.
It's a very good.
It's got middling reviews though, hasn't
but
it?
it's just not. It's not imaginative. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Mad Max is imaginative. The universe is imaginative. That the dialogue they put
Would
in
you
is
prefer
creative,
the game that wasn't open world? Maybe they just had a story. It'd have to be a good story for that, I guess.
I don't know. I don't think so. But I don't know how you'd balance the open world aspect with.
Why do you need open? Open world is becoming this big thing where it's like, oh my god,
yeah,
open world
it does
game.
feel like everything needs to be open world. But then again, that would mean getting rid of the driving elements of the game, and they're some of the most fun parts. Like that's some of the stuff I really really like about Mad Max. And
would it though? I mean, you could still have a massive area that you need to complete objectives in.
Yeah,
but then it's an open world game, isn't it?
I think honestly, it could just be smaller. The game could just be smaller. You could take the number of regions down from 4 to 2. You could take the number of outposts and stuff down by. You could halve the game. If you halve the game, I would honestly say it's better than it is now.
I'm watching the video, and as I'm skipping through it, it's very similar, isn't it? So you can see why it's just tons of regions that are the same, because it doesn't look difficult. They must have thought, probably like what you just said, we've done 2 good regions. Well, you know what? We can actually do 2 more, because all it really takes is a bit of copy and paste, and there you go. We've done this. And anyway, other games you've played, right? I played a game called Layers of Fear. This is
Oh, yes. And let me find it.
So this was balled up as being like PT levels of horror. I don't think I spoke about this last week, so I think I did it 6 days ago, so I couldn't have done. Let me just check.
There we go. I'll put it on so you can have a look.
What's the date? 5 days ago. Yeah, so this wouldn't have been on Hotfix last week on Pubcast. So this is a horror game very much done in the style of PT, where it isn't like stupid jump scares, although it is for about the first 20 minutes. It's a Unity engine game, but it's one of those Unity engine games where they've actually made a fucking game, Mr. Kirioth. They haven't just gone in and bought a load of assets, and it looks quite nice. Yeah, it looks quite nice visually. So you start off, and the whole idea is you are a painter, right? And you're working on your masterpiece. And you're clearly insane, and it's one of those horror nightmarish worlds that you're inventing yourself as you go along. Like, the guy doesn't realize he's crazy, and it's like you're going through his dreams sort of thing as he's walking around his house completing his work. But I get the feeling that what he's doing in his dream, what he perceives as reality, is obviously not happening. So when you take a piece of skin and use that in your artwork, yeah, I think you're ripping it off somebody, but you're not actually ripping it off somebody from what you see. But I'm pretty sure you are, yeah? And then when you're like extracting blood, I think you're taking blood out of something, right?
Christ.
But you're not actually doing that. Like, it's that kind of thing, and it's pretty good. Anyway, it starts off not too good. So you're in the you're walking home, right? It's raining. You get into open your front door, walk into the like the porch area and whatnot, and you stand there and go into your art room where you do your work, and the door's locked. But there's a note, and it says, "I've left the key on your desk." So then you can kind of explore around, and then there's a lot of jump scares. And I was just like, well, I've been told this is like PT. Giving me cheap jump scares are just crap because I think that is the worst thing you can do in a horror game. I mean, PT did a couple of jump scares, but the one everyone remembers is the door where the doors, like in PT, you could zoom in on items, and you can in this if you hold like right mouse button down, you'll like focus on stuff.
Yeah,
You know, it like
focused on a
enhances you just a little bit.
baby doll hanging upside down in the picture frame.
Oh yeah, now fall through the ground.
No,
Not
not
fall
yet.
through the ground yet. Well, watch that bit. Watch, I'll walk up to it and it just falls through the floor.
It's you've gone out of the room now. Maybe that was a different point. But yeah, it was. You just came out of.
I think it was just before that bit then.
Ah, right. You came out of like a basement thing, and
Yeah.
there was a guy's face on a giant painting that then sort of all dripped down, and then he came back again, and it was really weird, and I don't like it, even with the sound.
Yeah.
off.
That's the kind of horror I like. Like that's what I like, where it's all like freaky shit. Like, but yeah, PT has got the famous jump scare where you walk down the corridor, you hear the door open, you turn behind, and you see the doors ajar, and you look at the door, and then nothing happens. But if you focus on the door, suddenly a hand grabs it and just shuts the door quick. That's a good jump scare. This game has jump scares like there's a part where a window's open and there's text on the wall and it says you can't reach here or something along those lines. And as you walk towards the window shuts. And then there's like, you know, or you just randomly fall through the floor or something just falls out of a cupboard and you open it. And it's like, well, that's not very good.
That jump scare from PT, something I really like about that is that's kind of that to me is like the opposite of the traditional jump scare, because the thing with jump scares is it's something jumping out at you, isn't it? It's always at you. It's always the danger of something coming at your face.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that PT kind of went the reverse for that particular jump scare, because instead of the door flying open and something like screaming at your face, instead it closed, it shut you off, and it's like, oh god. And that's actually a bit more, in a way, that's more scary, because you don't expect it to be you don't expect to be shut out. You expect something to fly at you. And I've watched I think all of your playthrough of PT, which was a stupid idea, just because I'm totally shit at horror and it scared the shit out of me. To then have later on the woman, like the horrible, ghouly, whatever her name was, woman, run like through you after the door had shut. I really liked that, because that's kind of, by that point you're expecting it to not do that. It's like, oh well, this game doesn't do that kind of jump scare. Like this game does, like it plays your head, it goes the opposite way, but then it does exactly what you would have expected it to do had you not failed to experience that earlier on. And it's like it's more intelligent, that kind of thing, isn't it? It's more,
yeah, it's more refined. Like it's a better approach to doing it. You can see there's like a bit of finesse gone into it. I mean, so Laser Fear suffers with a lot of like crapness at the start, but then it gets really good. And one of the interesting things it does as well, you've got like a lot of lore, bits of like tidbits of lore all over the place, and you can kind of pick these bits of newspaper cuttings up, or you can go into your daughter's bedroom. I presume it's your daughter, and you can see what's going on. Like you learn, you hobble as you walk. You learn you've got a prosthetic leg, and your daughter's playing with a little toy soldier. So maybe that was Daddy. Maybe Daddy was a soldier and he got his knee shot in, and that's why he became an artist. And then there's like all these other things you can make. Like there was a fire in an opera house, but you find a fiddle. I thought it was my fiddle to begin with, but I think your wife's actually a musician, but she's dead because I think she's burnt in the fire. But did she burn in the fire? It's like I haven't played it. Well, I mean, it's only in early access, so the game isn't completely finished. So I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, there's two dogs, which are the family dogs. They are. It's a greyhound and a Springer Spaniel, so very close to McGee. Bingo. I believe he incinerated them for some reason.
Christ.
But I don't think he realizes he has, because he wanted some part of them for his artwork or something. It's like insane. It's like, okay, but it's very much like you're going through his version of the world, but you know it's not real, and you know that he's doing bad shit. Actually, you're actually doing really bad shit while you're putting your work together, but you think you're doing good stuff. It's like one of those. It's almost like the Shining style of like all work and no play. You know, makes whatever a dull boy. You know, he's like, my world's different to yours now. I'm just going to cut your face off because that's not hurting you. You know, it's that type of, and I like that. I prefer that. But like, it does take a bit of time to get going, I think, and it gets really good at points where, and little things that get me, where he's an artist, right? So there's loads of art all over the house. it's annoying because the art gets they've maybe got 10 pictures and they keep using them over and over again. It's like, okay, well, you go through one section of a corridor and it's just got paintings all up the wall, but the paintings are like faces fused together now. It's like two faces fused together, and it's like, and you're looking at it like, what? And then one of them just falls on the floor, which is a jump scare, but it's a jump scare that's draws you in,
yeah.
And then there's a crazy note, like, to his wife or something, and it's like, it's nothing to do with, and then you can just walk out the room. It's like, what the hell? Now the other reason why it's called very PT, well, it's claimed to be like PT, is because it follows PT's format of going through the same area over and over and over again, but not as good. Because PT, you're in a very small area, yeah? It's a corridor, it's a corridor, and you go around the corridor, right?
Yeah.
And you keep going around it, something different happens, different. Sometimes it turns into an endless corridor and all this random stuff happens. What Layers of Fear does is it's got maybe 10 or 12 different rooms and they're connected differently. So you walk around and it's like kind of one loop, and then you go out. The door which you'd expect to open to the kitchen suddenly opens to the bathroom now. And then that might open to the study. Then that might open to the,
Oh, right.
And I didn't feel like that was as good. Because I prefer, it was almost like, what's going to be behind the door now? Oh, right. It's something...
Well, I think one of the things that made PT so
PT was subtle changes in the same room. A lot of it was,
and it could, every time you go in, it's like, I think that one of the main strengths of PT was the fact that every time you went in, it was like it was the same, but it also wasn't the same. So it was like I know the layout of this, and I know what's around the corner, but is it actually going to be like that? And then you go around, and it's almost like a sense of relief. It's like, oh, okay, no, it is the same. Except it's not, because now there's crazy eyeballs flicking all over the place. And I think wasn't there one point at PT where it went round backwards?
So sometimes you had to go back.
Yeah.
I'd imagine Layers of Fear does that type of thing because it's very much. I mean, I want games like that. I'll take horror games like that. I prefer them to Amnesia was okay, but Amnesia was a lot about being chased by monsters and shit. And
yeah.
You see all the YouTube videos, don't you, with the scream cams and shit. I no doubt you'll see Layers of Fear will turn up on like Markiplier's channel and go, oh my god, and it's like it isn't like that, because if you were in that situation, nobody would react like that. You would be disturbed. You wouldn't be screaming. I like to think, I know you don't like playing these games, but if you played it and you sat there like me, like an idiot, midnight with all the lights off, you'll get like the chill, you'll get that chill feeling,
and you can die.
Yeah, but you're disturbed, and it's almost like, who's behind me, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
it's not like no jump scare. It's never like that, and PT's not like that. And I don't react like that, and I never will. But I do enjoy that style of horror game. But I'm not really a fan of just the cheesy, like, oh god, a monster's chasing me, I've got no way of reacting, I've just got to run, and it's not as good. PT was great. It's a shame it isn't actually coming out as a game, but if that's inspired like maybe a new genre of this PT style horror, I'll take it. And Layers of Fear seems good enough for me to go back and play, although it had maybe a 20-minute crappy start, but then it really started to pick up, and now it is like, I mean, I don't know what bits you showed on the video, but when you fall through the floor, you turn around and suddenly there's a painting right behind you, and all its face is melting, and it's like,
that's the bit we saw. There's like it goes dark, and then you turn the light on, and then you turn around, and there's a massive painting of a guy with like a turban or something on, a big red hat thing, and then it melts into the floor, but then it's back to normal again, and you can walk around the room. And just to give people an idea as to just how little I can deal with horror games, just talking about this and having the footage on, my door's open and I can see out onto the landing just through the little crack. I am now imagining stuff moving there. I don't know what it is. I think it's almost like going into stuff like horror games. For me, it's almost like expect...
hang on. Let me just tell you this before, because I've just remembered, because I'll bloody forget. There is one part. This was brilliant. This was totally different than any other thing I've seen before. You walk into the bedroom after you've been in there a couple of times, and there's a gramophone. And it plays a song. What the hell does the song say? I kept singing it as I was walking around because it's like a really stupid song. I'm sure somebody commented on the video with like
an old-timey sort of...
Yeah, like, get knocked down, I get back up again, I get knocked down, I get back up again, I get knocked down, I get back up again. It's something like that. It's something retarded. I can't bloody remember, but you go into the bedroom anyway. the gramophone is in the middle of the room this time. It's like, what the hell? Like, usually it's at the side. So it's like a little subtle change. Obviously, this means you need to interact with it. So I walk up to it and I turn it on, but it's playing backwards this time. Like, and I'm like, oh, right, playing backwards. But a really cool effect starts happening. The room and everything in it and the door all start to melt away and like melt like this.
God.
And I'm like, the song's playing, and as the song gets to its end, a jar of blood rolls out from underneath the bed. I think it's to simulate burning. I think it's like everything's melting away, and I'm like, picked it up, but I couldn't get out the door because the door had melted away to the point where I couldn't open it. It's all melted and fused. Well, to get out of it, you have to flick the switch on the gramophone to play the music the right way.
Oh,
and then
like,
play it, and it's like, I get knocked down,
everything.
I get knocked again, I get knocked down, I get knocked back again, and it all comes back, and then you can open the room door. I thought that was pretty funky. Anyway,
nice.
Go back to tell us about you shitting yourself with the crack in the door.
But I don't know. I don't know what it is, and I don't get it with any other genre of anything. It's only like horror games and horror films where it's almost like I expect to be scared because, like, that's what it's for. That's the point of the genre. It's to make people scared. It's to make you like distressed or upset, or just be like, make you jump. If I attempt to go into anything like that, then it sounds stupid, but I go in with such a high expectation that something is going to happen that's going to freak me out, like really badly, that I end up being freaked out by nothing. Like I get myself so highly strung waiting for the jump scare or for the creepy thing to happen, or for the big, for whatever to jump out of the screen or whatever.
Yeah.
That before it even happens, I've imagined it so many times in trying to prepare for it that I've scared myself before I even get a chance to be scared by the game. In fact, I think I even played Amnesia very briefly on the channel for like 20 minutes. And like I think it was someone on the streams, like maybe, I can't remember how many years ago it was I played Amnesia. They were like, oh, you put it on a bit strong for Amnesia. I didn't put it on at all. Like, before I even got to the part where you start getting chased by monsters, I'd had enough. Like, I literally had enough. I was like, this is scary enough. There we go. No, that was you, half an hour in. I can't remember. It might have been like, yeah, that was it. 3 years ago, Christ. From the Humble Indie Bundle 5, Amnesia. This is from 2012.
That's when PewDiePie started making his millions, right?
Yeah, and I was like, that's how long I played it for. I played it for 10 minutes, because before anything had even happened, I had been so kind of trying to prepare myself for something scary happening that I'd succeeded in scaring myself to the point that I no longer wanted to play the game. And I do it with horror games all the time, to the point where I don't want to play them because I already know that, firstly, I know I'll end up scared because that's the whole point, and apparently I'm really easy to scare. But also because, in a way, I don't even need to.
But it's not real.
I don't even need to, because I've loaded it up and I make myself so scared of the fact that the game is going to make me scared that I don't even need to play it. It's like I could just sit there on the menu screen. You'd be like, give it 10 minutes. Yeah, no, I'm done. I've had enough. And I'll just turn it off. And it's just like, but I don't get it from anything else. This is the crazy thing. Like, films that have got kind of horror stuff in them. Like, do you remember the film The Descent? Did you ever watch that?
Yeah.
That was billed as a horror, right? That was supposed to be, people called it a horror. I didn't know this going in. I thought it was just like some weird action type film about people who got lost underground. And so through the entirety of the film, I had almost like a clinical detachment where it was just like, oh, that was a bit weird. And none of it scared me. Literally, there was no point of that film in all of the little jump scares and all the stupid monsters attacking people and all the kind of, the flashing on the screen or the dead kid turning up with the birthday cake. None of it scared me at any point until afterwards, where someone was like, I thought you didn't like horror films. I was like, no, I fucking hate horror films. I absolutely hate them. It's like, you just watched one. Yeah, but it wasn't really scary, was it? At this point, I'm convinced now that if someone says it's not scary, then I'm fine. Like, cause I just got through that film without even thinking about the fact that it was supposed to, make you jump. And so I didn't jump. And I wasn't worried, I wasn't scared. I was just like, yeah, that was all right. And I actually came away from that going, that wasn't a very good film. That was a bit shit. And there were people going, no, you're talking about it's an amazing film. I was like, no, it was crap. Nothing really happened. And it's like, yeah, it didn't happen because you didn't think anything was going to. And then so you decided that it didn't. I have the opposite thing with horror films, so it's just like, oh, this is gonna be scary. It's gonna be scary. It's gonna be scary. I'm scared. I don't want to watch it anymore. And then I just, I just leave. And I don't understand why it doesn't happen with anything else. Like, I don't go through any other type of genre for anything. It's like if someone tells me a film's funny, I don't immediately think it's hilarious because if it's not funny, it's shit. And it's like I don't
Yeah.
go through action films going like, oh well, there's not as much action as I thought, therefore it's shit. I just take everything else as it comes and enjoy it for what it is. And then as soon as it gets to horror, it's like, this is scary, I don't want to do it. And that's it. It's really odd.
I don't like. I, like the problem with me is I know it's not real. Like I just know it's not real. So when I'm watching it, I'm just like, horror films don't really bother me, really, to be honest. Like I've never really thought, oh god, this film's absolutely crippled me mentally, and I can't deal with what's going on the screen.
Yeah.
Games are like they don't cripple me mentally. I enjoy them. Like I enjoy obviously PT and that laser fear and whatnot. When it's like makes you think about what's happening, and it's like, ooh, what could be? When you're really involved in it, what could be? And then suddenly something happens that's completely different, or maybe it's really subtle, and you think, oh my god, why did that move? That's better to do me in, but I don't really get done in by them anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, that's the stupid thing as well. It's like, I know perfectly why it's not real, because if it was... Shut up, dog. Shaking all over the place. Because obviously, if it was real, I wouldn't be able to just Alt F4 and go and do something else. But I think it's more... It's not so much the actual events of the game or the film that makes me scared. It's
your
my
own mind that's doing you over.
It's my anticipation of it. It's like I'm so convinced that something's going to be scary that I invent scary stuff to try and prepare for it, and then I've already imagined the scary shit, so I'm already scared. So the game is just adding to it, and it's like at that point, another thing is like I wouldn't play a scary game purely because I can't approach it from a point of view of like, yeah, that was scary. Because it could be a totally shit game. And in all honesty, I would get myself scared before the game did. But then I would attribute it to the game. So it's like, I could play a totally shit game and be like, oh yeah, that was terrifying. And then other people who actually like that kind of thing would just be going, no, that was really poor. Like, that was really, really poor. It was not scary. It was like generic and formulaic, and it was just crap. Why did you even play? And I'm like, well, it was scary to me, but it's nothing to do with the game. It's just my own stupid brain. Which is why I don't review horror games on the channel ever, and probably never will.
We don't really review games anyway.
Well, true.
I spoke about Metal Gear Solid, didn't I, at the start? Tell me about your Warhammer stuff, right? What's going on?
Oh yeah. So first of all, I have an apology
Because I
to make.
I haven't seen the delights. I'm getting really close now.
I
need to get my.
I
fucking hate this shit. Hang on, bloke. I hate my hair, right? Because I've got this fucking VO5 putty or some shit, and I don't like it. I prefer the other wax thing. The putty's like really sticky, and it really makes your hair stay in stupid positions, and I don't like it. I don't look normal. But then I never did. Anyway, carry on.
I firstly have an apology. I was going to do bone-coloured Necrons, wasn't I? I did not take something into account.
Oh.
You know my Kargrath model, which is downstairs, so I can't show it, with all the skulls on it?
Yeah.
The corn guy. I got the idea for bone-coloured Necrons for that, because the skulls and stuff on there look really good, with a bit of bone... What is it? Ushbati bone.
You put a bit of Aggie on it.
Some Seraphim sepia, just a little bit of that. It creates a really nice, like, weathered bone look. So I was like, that would look cool on Necrons. I fancy doing some Necrons, that would look cool. The problem is that Necrons look like skeletons in that, they've got thin limbs and they've got like a kind of rib cagey type chest. But they don't have those little like crevices and highlights
flat.
and stuff. They're like smooth. So I did the base coat on my Immortals and I was like, that doesn't look right. Like that already doesn't look right, and I couldn't work out why.
Shit.
So I got the Seraphim sepia, and I just did a little bit just to test it out. Because it's a smooth, round surface on all of the armor plates on the legs and the arms and the chest, it doesn't settle in little crevices or make it weathered. It just makes it a dirty beige color, like because it just spreads out evenly. And I was like, these Necrons are going to look like a fucking computer from a public school in 1992. Because it's just going to be a beige, a mucky beige colour. So I ummed and ahed a bit, and I was like, well, okay, what can I do? And I had like I had one Necron warrior from years and years ago, and I've got some spray down in the garage, and I was like, okay, let's try different colours, see what it's like. Let's try black. We'll try red. We'll try lead belcher. See what it's like. I hate to say it, but I'm going with standard metal Necrons. But I'm just I'm gonna spruce them up with other colours and other places, like the shoulder armor and the heads and stuff.
You got
And the
Gehenna's
guns.
Gold?
No, I haven't got. I haven't got the spray of it, but I have got a pot
No,
of it.
yeah. It's an effect that I sort of came up with. Lead Belcher as a base, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you really water down Gehenna's Gold, like really water it down, like 5-to-1 watering down, like with the paint
so
to
it's
water.
almost like a wash, almost.
Yeah, and then just sort of whack it over randomly. It looks like a burnished effect that bleeds into the silver. And I've been using it on the exhaust systems for my Cataphren guys, and
I might try that.
It looks quite nice. You've got to be careful with it though. Don't like whack it all over, but like just do it on arms or on the rib cage, and it almost looks like it's been heated up. Like looks quite good.
Is I've only like these were just to test it out, but because the lead belcher spray is a lot lighter than the lead belcher out of the pot. Like it's a lot lighter colour.
The lead belcher out of the pot lasts for ages. I've noticed, like ages and ages, and I'm using loads of that.
So I've got. You can kind of see there.
Yeah.
I've sprayed him silver.
Show me the other camera.
Oh yeah, there we go. Now everyone can see it. So I've got the lead belcher silver. I've got Warplock bronze on the shoulders, and on the stripe on the Immortal's head. The Necrons don't have a stripe on the head.
Warplock bronze will probably work all right with my crazy method as well. If you really
it might do actually. So I'm going to do the heads white. I'm going to do shoulder armor bronze. I'm probably going to do the guns. The guns are going to be black, but they're also going to be like I'm going to use some of the Rune Lord brass that I've got, and I'm going to dry brush that like very lightly onto the edges, so it looks like a kind of goldy, blacky sort of color. And I'm going to use red instead of green for like the energy. So I'm going to try for the first time ever to do glow on the gun.
Pretty easy to do that.
And I'm going to do it that way. And I, like some of the recesses are a bit mucky because I had to get rid of the paint. The previous layer of paint before I did it, stuck them in some Dettol and stuff. It didn't come off perfect, but like the actual like the little gaps and stuff in the armor, I can easily get black in there. I can just use some null oil down there to get the shading right. But they're gonna have to be silver because I could go and get like a white spray because I quite like the idea of white Necrons, but this was going to be like a fairly cheap army to put together, and at this rate, I'd end up spending a ton on paint just trying to find a scheme I like. Whereas, if I try what you suggested with like having a kind of a burnished effect on the armor, and if I change the color of the energy and like make the shoulders a different color and the heads are white, they're going to stand out from normal, just standard metal Necrons anyway. Because what I wanted to avoid was just the like.
Well, I'm going to send you a link. I'll send you a link. Yeah, avoiding. It's like avoiding the ultramarine fucking syndrome, eh? I'm going to send you a link anyway, right? This is what I tweeted out, pictures the Mechanicum stuff I've been working on.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. The reason I sent you the thing is because these operate on the if you look at the Cataphren, no, not the Cataphren, the Castellan robot standing up, or even the one lying down, which is the one I painted on the stream, you can see the wash lines. Can you see the wash lines on the plate?
Yes. Hang on, let me switch over. Yeah.
Now, they're meant to look like that because it's supposed to be like part of the corrosion effect I've got on them, where the grey bits were straight up Fenrisian grey, a couple of layers of that, and then they were washed with Agrax Earthshade, but washed so like you can see the direction. So it's like, imagine like, I don't know, sheets of like acidic rain or something have hit them or some shit. And then it's also caused their armor to start corroding away on the edges. It sort of goes silver into. You can see it better on the Castellan robot that's lying down.
Yeah,
because that was a more of a close-up picture. But if you look at like the way it's like corroding away, but this is like a very. I've never painted anything like this dirty but they look clean when they're together. It's hard to explain. Like you can't really see them on the webcam. Well, they're over there standing up, but when they're in like. They're all standing together. Yeah, fuck you. When they're all standing together, they look quite good together. They look clean together, and they look like they're part. You know, they're all uniform and they look nice. But because usually, like in the past, when I paint stuff, I tried to get it immaculate, and it's been interesting painting in this kind of style because I think it gives them a bit of grit because they are Mechanicum. They are industrial, aren't they? They're not clean. I've never envisioned the Mechanicum as immaculately clean. I've seen like pollution. I mean, fucking hell, look at Mars. You know, like they're not.
Yeah,
They,
yeah, yeah.
you know, like they may have like immaculate technology, maybe like the Megases and whatever, but these guys have been deployed on a planet. Like the whole like, I mean, it started off with I was going to do Metallica, Forge World Metallica with 1L. They're bone colored with the corn red,
Yeah.
but I I don't like the bone color on them because it looks a bit like I don't know, it just doesn't work.
I think there's just something about it that's just a little bit beige. I think it works for like I think it only works for actual bone. I know it sounds daft, but
Yeah, yeah.
it works really well for actual bone. But
I
I
knew
think
it'd be a
it's just
nightmare
like a
painting it as well. I like I didn't want to do it, and I was like, no, it's almost like painting them white, which just would look
yeah,
weird. I was like, nah, I didn't want to paint them red because everybody paints Mechanicum stuff red because it's Mars.
yeah,
And I was like, well, what happens if I just use grey? And I've rolled with it. So again, it's kind of like my own little Forge World I've got on the go, but it doesn't matter because I'm starting to formulate a bit of lore, and they have, like I said, they have been deployed on, or they're just coming back from, or whatever. But they've been on a planet with very caustic atmosphere, so where the
oh,
I think you'll
caustic.
find what a lovely word. I think you'll find the atmosphere is indeed forged of I don't know sulfuric acid
Acid
or
rain,
some
yeah.
sort of horrend. No, there's no oxygen in the atmosphere. It's just acid or something. I don't know. I don't even know what they're doing there, blow. But they're corroding away, and it gives them a nice like. They look
Yeah,
different to other Mechanicum stuff I've seen. Because when I like, I do the usual thing. Like I'd go on Cool Mini or Not, which is a horrendous website to navigate, but it's quite good for seeing like miniature painting. And you
yeah,
look at Mechanicum, you
yeah.
look at Skitari, and they're just dead clean. It's like nobody would be immaculately unless you were they caught you at the moment of deployment on a world or whatever. They would not be immaculately clean.
Well, even I mean, even these Necrons are going to end up with a little bit of like muck and rust on them because it's like they're in a battle. They're not going to be completely clean in the battle. They might be clean on when they arrive. They might be clean like a day after, but they're not going to be completely clean whilst fighting.
No.
And the one of the things I got, which I've abandoned hotfix for very briefly because the postman arrived, was this chap here. So
Overlord, man.
yeah, so I'm going to be building him today, and I'm actually quite looking forward to painting this because there was no such thing as a decent HQ model back when I played Necrons back in the day. But the one thing I don't like about this guy is his head. Like he's got a crazy crest on his head, which
Yeah.
I don't really like very much
That
because I
looks
think
like some Inca style shit. Doesn't
yeah,
look Egyptian.
I feel like it's kind of ornate enough because he's got like a big mail cloak with like interlocking plates, and he's got the mail on the bottom there, and a big crazy scythe.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the head for a start with I've got death mark heads from the immortal kit because the immortal kit
Yeah.
can build death marks or it can build immortals, and I've also got death mark rifles. So I'm going to customize the staff a bit because at the moment all the Necron Overlord staffs look the same because the actual packaging for it, he's got no options. He just comes with the orb and the scythe, and that's all he gets. And the scythe is always pointing backwards, and he always has the orb. Now I want the orb
Why is the
anyway.
scythe pointing backwards?
I don't know, but you looking at it, I can cut it in half, like not in half, but there.
Yeah.
You could slice through it and turn the scythe the right way round. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to turn the scythe the right way round, give him a death mark head. I might try and do something that doesn't involve the orb of resurrection in his hand because he's not going to have an orb of resurrection. He's going to have a phylactery, so there's no point in him holding a piece of Walker that he's not got. But I might do something where I might be able to switch it out just in case I do decide to take one. But I'm hoping that I'll be able to kind of put together the color scheme that I really want to do with the silver, and now try the burnish thing. But like, I want like dark metals is what I want, and like the spine
Yeah.
on the back as well. People always leave the spine alone, but especially on the immortals, it's like it's a really strong feature of the model. It's like,
Yeah, you could like run like if you're running you could maybe run it red, you know? Do some
well, that's
sort
the
of
thing.
like so it stands out crazy.
Yeah, I was wondering whether to do some sort of like red power glow off it, or even just like layer different metals down it.
Yeah.
So do like the Warplock bronze, but then maybe do some brass, and then do like a little bit of gold over the top. So it's almost like it's like lots of different shifting metals on the back of them.
I will send you a link to this is my HQ. But it's just the Magus Dominus, but I'll send you the link just so you ain't got to fuck about. it always defaults to the American store for me. Games Workshop does. I don't know why, but same bloody pictures. He's quite a nice model.
Yeah,
one thing I kind of like with this guy is if you rotate him on the pitch, you can rotate. There's he's holding his little gamma pistol, and it looks quite nice. That does. It's like this little fancy pistol he's got. Yeah. You see a little fancy pistol. This little walking stick.
I do like that model though. It is really well put together, and it just looks like it looks like really arcane and old, but like futuristic at the same time. I mean, he's got like a load of crazy metal tentacles and like claws sticking out the back of him, but he's got a little walking stick as well. And that pistol is really like ornate. It's like something you'd see on like a galleon years ago, isn't it?
Yeah. It is steampunky technology styly kind of stuff. I quite like the way the Mechanicum stuff looks. See, because I'm not too like. I think this will definitely be my army I'll play with, and it then gives you more options where you can, I've got bits of Imperial Guard, haven't I?
Yeah.
I could maybe start doing Imperial Guard with them and just do crazy allied detachments. I mean, I've seen a list. It's actually from In Control, the famous StarCraft player, because he plays Warhammer competitively, like, and he had a list which uses the Court Mechanicus War Convocation, which is kind of what I'm going to put together anyway, just because I've got the Imperial Knight. But then it's like, because it's a power gamer list, on the side, it's like, oh yeah, we've also got a Flesh Tearers detachment with 3 drop pods and a fucking priest guy for the Feel No Pain. But there's just 3 drop pods. Oh, and a group of scouts, I think, because they're the cheapest units you could take. Well, what are the drop pods for? Well, the drop pods are for the Skitarii, aren't they? They're not for... So it's like drop podding in Skitarii. It's just like... Vanguard Skitarii, you can have 3 plasma culverins in each 10-man squad. And I think they're 2-shot plasma cannons, and they can have 3 of them. And it's like, right then, I'll just drop pod them in on top of you and fucking blow you away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the formation means you don't have to roll for gets hot.
Yeah.
So it's like one of those like piss take lists, which legal, but it's like you're only going to see that in a tournament. I'm not. Yeah. I don't want that. I want a list which is competitive, but not fucking bullshit.
When I was looking at Necron lists to just get an idea of what people do with them, like there's like an anti-knight list for people who just bring knight armies, and it's like 2 combined arms detachments, but it's like 5-man warrior squads in knight scythes, and each HQ is like an overlord, a lord, a cryptech, and like 5 lich guard in a knight scythe, because that way they get 4+ on their reanimation protocols. And all of their weapons are just designed to kill knights, and that's all it is. And it's like, oh, it's a bit iffy with reserve rolls, but on the other hand, one of these squads can take out like 2 knights, and you've got 2 of them, and you've got all the warriors for backup. And it's like, I'm looking at them going, yeah, I don't think I'd want to play against that.
There's a YouTube channel I watch every now and again for battle reports, Tabletop Tactics, I think they're called, and the guy's got a Dark Angel army, and he's like, Dark Angels have been nerfed, at least for a Deathwing force have been nerfed. I think it's Deathwing. Is it the Terminator's Deathwing? Yeah, because Raven Wings are bikes, isn't it? And he's like, I just want a pure Deathwing force because that's what I used to use before, but now I kind of need to take bikes, but I don't want to. So what I've done instead is I've got 3 groups of just Deathwing Terminators, just with a chain fist and an assault cannon in each 5-man squad. They're just on their own. And then I've got Belial with his Deathwing Knights, which is, again, just kind of, a standard thing to do. But then, just to make it competitive, what I've actually got is the Land Raider Spearhead formation from the Space Marine Codex. So I've just got 3 Land Raiders, just with nobody in, with all twin-link last cannons on them and heavy bolter. And because they're in the Land Raider formation, they don't take crew shake and crew stunned, a ton of other... Like basically, when they get hit, a glancing hit, the only thing that affects them is the highest rolling a 6 on penetrating hit.
Yeah.
Everything else doesn't affect them, so they can just carry on doing as they're doing. And he was playing Mechanicum with this army, and armor 14 bloke
Yeah.
on 3 units.
So presumably
the amount of
you just stick the Terminators in the Land Raiders, drive them up the board, and then
no.
So the Land Raiders stay like just
on the Land Raiders were on the board, right, for 2 turns on their own.
Oh, and then
everything was
deep
firing
strikes.
at them, and then the Deathwing deep strikes on top of all of the. Because Belial doesn't scatter when he just deep strikes, he just appears because he's got tactical something or other. And his is obviously a really powerful squad because it's got the Knights with him, not just the normal Terminator guys.
Yeah.
So massively powerful in close combat. And the other Terminators get dropped. But interestingly, they got annihilated. Like the Mechanicum just blew them away because it's like fucking hell. They were dropping in front of like groups of Skitari, which can just, you know, put out a shitload of firepower, or like in front of like Cataphrone breaches, which is just going to fucking. They're designed to kill them. So they're like, you know, it took a lot of damage. But what's still there? The Land Raiders. And at the end of the game, the guy had won because he won off the tactical objective score, but he was getting beat army-wise, but he still had 2 Land Raiders left, I think. But it was just so shit. Like, it was one of those where nobody would buy 3 Land Raiders just to do that. Yeah. And I just thought, like, I mean, to me, a Land Raider is quite a boring unit. It's boring. I'm sorry, it's just boring. It's got boring weapons on it, and it's just a big box.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really do anything, does it? It's like, what are you doing, Land Raider? But when there's 3 of them, and they've all got armor, well, they've obviously got armor 14 all round, and yeah, it was just bullshit.
Yeah,
but I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of like if somebody turned up to me and was like, "Oh yeah, here's my list. Oh, I've done this and this, and it's clearly to abuse the game, so I'm gonna kill you." I'd just be like,
yeah, I don't think I'd want to be in a way. It puts me off the idea of ever even doing a tournament thing because it's like every list is.
It's all these combined detachments, like with like allies in, where it's like a shady ally just to unlock something else, and it's like, yeah, just get the cheapest Flesh Terror detachment in because I think it's something to do with drop pods. That's the reason why you take Flesh Terrors. Maybe you know, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
but they get all these drop pods.
Got a what's it called?
You get your sanguinary priest.
I think it's Reign of Blood or something. They get some crazy detachment that is like drop pods for free or something. Maybe I can't remember.
Yeah, because 3 drop pods I don't think would be too cheap.
Yeah,
and then like putting your units in them to abuse them. It's like, oh, wonder what would happen if I could somehow deep strike a unit, which should never be deep striked.
Yeah,
like you know the Cataphrone. The Cataphrone destroyers can have heavy grav cannons. 3 of them. So they're like Centurions. You know how many shots they get when they've got fucking grav amps on them and God knows what. Well, imagine if you could just deep strike them in front of something and just fire at it. I mean, they would annihilate a Land Raider or anything of that kind. Well, anything with heavy armor would be dead against that. You know, and it's like, oh, let's find a formation to do that. I mean, admittedly, there is a formation which sort of does do that for Mechanicum, but it's so expensive. You'd have half your army in reserve.
Yeah. It's the same thing as that. What was that guy who had was it an Iron Hands army that was just Razorbacks with
shit,
minimal...
that was off that Tabletops channel as well.
Yeah.
They must like just do and it was just like fucking 15 Razorbacks.
Yeah,
or something stupid.
Just with like minimum troops in, and there was just a guy. Was it a guy on a bike just going around fixing like a hull point every single turn?
Yeah, it's the what are they called?
The Iron Father or something, or the Tech Marine or something on a.
Yeah, no, it's Iron Father, isn't it? The special Iron Hands guy, like the Super Tech Marine. Yeah.
Just going around fixing every day. That's just boring to me. It's just boring. I could never do it. I mean, I've got I need to get a Storm Raven for it, but I've got a Strike Force Ultra over there on the back. And as far as I know, that's not particularly competitive. It's all fucking expensive. It's like massively expensive units that could get wiped out by any number of weapons that other armies have got. But I don't particularly want it to be massively competitive.
It'd be interesting to play with that because when I get my Mechanicum sorted out, I can just give you my Storm Raven to to play with it.
Yeah, that's true.
And we could just fucking go for it and see what happens. Because isn't that all the Terminators in reserve basically? They just don't come in.
Much, well, you've got the Storm Raven and the Land Raider, and it's Storm Raven, Land Raider, 2 sets of normal Terminators, 2 sets of Assault Terminators, Venerable Dreadnought, and a Captain. And mine would end up being unbound because it's it's like 200 points under 1850, which is really frustrating. And Centurions mine would have with them.
Yes, that way be unbound to Centurions.
Yeah. And I think you can put Terminators in the Land Raider and the Storm Raven, but even if you did, you're gonna have like 2 models on the board because you'd have the Land Raider and the Dreadnought, and that would be it, and everything else being reserve. But on the other hand, it's like 4 squads of Terminators, and if you can drop pod the Assault Terminator, not drop the deep strike the Assault Terminators in, I'm pretty sure they can charge the same turn they deep strike in the formation somewhere. I think that was it.
Well, the Deathwing formation for the Terminators allows them to deep strike, shoot, and then run. Can't assault, but they could shoot and then run.
It might be that actually. I'll have to double check. I've got the codex somewhere.
The one that's fucking Grey Knights who can assault off the bloody.
I did think about
Nemesis Strike Force when they can come in, shoot, and then fucking kill you.
Yeah, I don't think it is that on the Space Marine.
Grey Knights, like, before we end this anyway, because we're just talking for ages about bloody 40k. Grey Knights is I never really been a fan of Grey Knights, just because I know it's a relatively cheap army to put together because you don't need that many models, but it's always the same thing. Like,
yeah, there's no variation in it. That's my problem with it. It's like it's just always. It's Grey Knights, but it's always just Grey Knights. There's not really anything else you can do with them. It's always going to be the same kind of army, which it just doesn't seem very exciting to me. There we go, that's it. Special. So this is the Strike Force Ultra. 1 captain. Oh, can you not make him? You can't make him a chapter master. That's interesting. 2 Terminator squads, 2 Terminator squads, Venerable Dreadnought, Storm Raven gunship, and a Land Raider of some description, whatever type of Land Raider you want. Oh no, Crusader or Redeemer, so you can't have a standard, whatever it is, pattern.
Glass Cannon one. Yeah.
Ultra Strike. All units in this formation must be placed in reserve. Make reserve rolls for all units from this formation at the start of your first turn. Make reserve rolls as normal for any units from this formation that do not arrive in your first turn. So actually, wouldn't you lose instantly? If all your units are in formation, are in reserve, then you've got no models on the board in the first turn. So unless you went first,
that's almost like there is no first turn. If that's the case, that's weird.
That's going to require some googling, but we won't do that now. Fury of the Storm: when a Terminator squad from this formation arrives from Deep Strike Reserve or disembarks from a transport vehicle from this formation for the first time, all ranged weapons carried by models in the unit add 1 to the number of shots they can make until the end of the turn. Okay. Force of a Thunderbolt: when a Terminator assault squad from this formation disembarks from a transport vehicle from this formation for the first time, all models in the unit add 1 to their attacks until the end of the turn. So they can't like jump out and attack, but
but they just get buffed up the attacks when they do.
Yeah, so if you put,
they've still got the vulnerability of you come in and you're still going to get shot by the other team.
Yeah, but if you put them in the Land Raider or the Storm Raven,
and possibly assaulted by them, although that would be suicidal unless you had massively solid, let's say, Castellan robots standing there with a shitload of autocannon shots that they would gladly run in and fight you.
That is dodgy as hell then. So that means that... I don't even understand how that would work. This is going to have to be Googled, because I'm pretty sure if you've got no models on the table...
You just lose. You've been tabled, ain't you?
How the fuck are you supposed to use the Strike Force Ultra when it's so big that you can only just squeeze 3 Centurions in? You couldn't have an allied detachment for like 200 points. It's impossible. Answer in the comments below if you've got any idea how that works, or if it's just meant for Apocalypse games and I've got an essentially unusable army sitting behind me, which I'll not be happy about. Although I can probably swing it into a normal CAD formation. Thinking about it, that's what I did before this formation existed. I used a combined arms detachment, but I used Forge World rules and cheated it by having 1 squad of Terminators be troops, because you can do that with the captain that I used from Forge World, and I had just 5 shitty tactical marines. So it could be done possibly, but yeah, if you know the answer to that, then by all means, because that looks like a totally useless formation from Games Workshop there. Wouldn't surprise me if I'm honest. It really wouldn't. It would just be like, oh yeah, this old game, is it then? Fancy that.
It's getting so complicated now, though, isn't it? Where you just, there are like loopholes everywhere, especially with all the formations. It's like, oh yeah, I've got a data slate formation that was in fucking White Dwarf 65. Blah, this is what I'm using. It's like, what?
Yeah, I've never heard of this. Well, fuck you. It's right here.
Oh, fuck you. Take it and die. Yeah. I mean, there's some horrible things the Mechanicum shit gets, though. The Cult Mechanicus can increase the ballistic skill of all their units by 2. So you're rolling on like basically 2s to hit for everything, the entire army. It's like, yeah,
Rancid.
I think they're a bit OP, but I don't think they've been out for long enough for them to be like fully used because you don't see them that often. I mean, like with your Necron boys, you see them a lot, and you know they're powerful, and that's good. And I know the Cult Mechanicus when they're with Skitarii, because Cult Mechanicus on their own are not very good, because the units are not very. You've just got slow moving units. You've got the Castellan robots slow. You've got the Cataphrone breaches slow. You've got the fucking Dominus slow. You've got. That's it. I think that's all there is in Cult Mechanicus. Oh no, the Electro Priests.
Well, they're slow as well, ain't they? So.
Yeah, and massively expensive in actual cost.
And don't they get Don't they get a no save as well?
Yeah, they don't need a save like this. I think they're under a refractive field though, so I think they have a 5. I think they get invuln saves and fail no pain though, so they're not like totally shit. Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous, but you need the Skitarii because the Skitarii have got all the other units that you like.
That you lack, yeah.
That you need, yeah. And when you put them together, because I mean they're the same army. This is what annoys me. It is the same. It is the Mechanicum.
Yeah, but you got to price them as 2 codexes.
Yeah, but the price.
All it is.
The price both together, so they're just like £2 more expensive than 1 codex. So it isn't too devastating, but it's still more expensive.
Yeah.
And in fact, you need the Imperial Knight codex as well if you want to use the Knight, unless you just buy a Knight, in which case a new Knight, I'll have you know, like the Crusader Knight, because it's got the rules in the box, so you don't actually need them. So what is the point of their codex, apart from the stupid formations? And anybody who turns up with 5 Imperial Knights, I am not playing against them. They can go away.
I wholeheartedly agree. And on that note, we're going to bring it into the Pubcast. Good grief. I thought last week's was long at 2 hours and 7. We've gone 2 hours 15 this time. If you want to support us, as always,
what a treat.
You can do so via Patreon. There's a link up there and there's a link down there. Anything you can do to help with Patreon is brilliant because it keeps the shows running. Make sure to come back at 7 o'clock PM BST for Hotfix. That's when Hotfix is out, except for the one that you will have already watched this week. That will be late due to technical issues. I'm assuming it's going to be late. I mean, if YouTube can process that.
You talk to them about something being late, that's already happened, bloke. It just doesn't work.
You know,
bloke, do you not understand time travel?
I'm from the future, so we're gonna end it.
The future is now.
The future is now. We will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Toodaloo.